Beneath the veils of time and earth lie monuments whose origins defy explanation, where stone, geometry and human ingenuity intersect in ways that challenge modern understanding. Across deserts, mountains, forests and submerged seascapes, ancient architects left behind creations so precise and enigmatic that even advanced science struggles to account for their construction. Every wall, every carved chamber, every monolithic block seems to whisper questions that remain unanswered, drawing us toward puzzles that have endured for millennia. Venturing into these remote sites, we will trace the pathways of civilizations long vanished, navigating narrow corridors hewn from rock, examining massive stone blocks that fit together without mortar, and observing alignments that capture the sun and stars in perfect symmetry. From the spiraling observatories of the Andes to submerged ocean terraces, each structure reveals ambition, skill, and knowledge that remains just beyond our grasp. The stone vessels of Sanxingdui. The fields of Guanghan in Sichuan province appear ordinary at first, flat farmland broken by irrigation channels and low earthen rises, yet beneath this quiet surface lay one of the most unsettling archaeological discoveries in China. Sanxingdui is known today for its startling bronzes, but scattered among them were stone vessels whose forms and workmanship refuse easy explanation. These objects emerged from ritual pits rather than tombs or dwellings, already broken or deliberately buried, suggesting acts of ceremonial destruction rather than abandonment. Their presence complicates the site's identity, hinting at a culture whose symbolic language has not survived in writing or legend, leaving only objects that feel incomplete and unresolved. The first discoveries at Sanxingdui occurred in 1929, when a local farmer uncovered jade artifacts while digging a ditch, but it was not until 1986 that the true scale of the site became clear. 2 large sacrificial pits were excavated, revealing hundreds of artifacts buried in dense layers of ash, charcoal, and compacted soil. Alongside bronze masks and sculptures were finely shaped stone vessels and tools, some smoothed to a finish that suggests prolonged polishing. Their forms do not neatly align with those of the Shang dynasty, which ruled much of northern China at the time, raising questions about whether Sanxingdui developed independently or followed a different cultural trajectory altogether. The stone vessels themselves are varied in shape and size, ranging from shallow basins to thick-walled containers whose interiors were carefully hollowed. Many were carved from hard stone that would have required sustained labour with abrasive tools, yet no clear workshops or quarries have been found nearby. Some vessels bear subtle symmetry and proportional balance, implying standardised techniques, while others appear intentionally irregular. What unites them is their context. They were not recovered from domestic spaces or burial chambers, but from pits that show signs of burning, fragmentation, and intentional deposition, reinforcing the idea that they were used in rituals whose meaning has been lost. Chemical analysis of residues within some vessels has produced ambiguous results, offering no definitive evidence of food storage, metallurgy, or pigment preparation. This absence of clear, functional traces deepens the mystery rather than resolving it. If the vessels were practical tools, their destruction seems wasteful. If they were symbolic objects, their forms resist easy interpretation. Unlike ritual bronzes elsewhere in ancient China, which often bear inscriptions or recognizable motifs, Sanxingdui's stone vessels are largely undecorated. Their silence contrasts sharply with the expressive bronze masks found beside them, creating an imbalance that archaeologists still struggle to explain. The craftsmanship evident in these stone objects suggests a society capable of organizing skilled labor over long periods. Yet Sanxingdui lacks evidence of centralized palaces or monumental architecture. The vessels point to technical knowledge without revealing the social structures that sustained it. Radiocarbon dating places the site's peak between roughly 1200 and 1000 BCE, overlapping with the late Shang period, but the cultural differences are stark. While Shang ritual objects followed codified forms tied to royal authority, the stone vessels of Sanxingdui seem detached from any known system of political or religious hierarchy, as if they belonged to a parallel tradition that never intersected with written history. One of the most unsettling aspects of the stone vessels is their condition at burial. Many were deliberately broken before being placed in the pits, sometimes alongside shattered bronzes and burned elephant tusks. This pattern suggests a large-scale ritual event rather than gradual accumulation. Some researchers propose that the vessels were rendered unusable to release spiritual power, a practice known in other ancient cultures, yet no texts or later traditions in the region describe such rites. The deliberate destruction feels purposeful but opaque, leaving only fragments to imply a belief system that vanished without leaving explanatory traces. The geographic isolation of Sanxingduai adds another layer of uncertainty. Located in the Sichuan Basin, surrounded by mountains and river systems, the region was relatively insulated from the political centres of the Yellow River Valley. This isolation may have allowed unique practices to flourish, including stoneworking traditions that diverge from those of neighbouring cultures. Yet trade connections are evident, as jade materials appear to have originated from distant sources. The stone vessels, therefore, occupy a paradoxical position, both local in style and connected to broader exchange networks that complicate assumptions about cultural boundaries. Attempts to classify the stone vessels within known typologies have produced limited success. Some resemble ritual containers found in Neolithic sites, while others lack clear parallels anywhere in East Asia. Their proportions do not consistently match those of known measuring systems, challenging the idea that they served standardized functions. Even their placement within the pits appears irregular, with vessels positioned at varying depths and orientations. This lack of order contrasts with the careful planning implied by their manufacture, suggesting that whatever logic governed their final deposition was symbolic rather than practical. The absence of written records from Sanxingduai leaves scholars dependent on material clues, yet the stone vessels resist narrative reconstruction. They do not clearly indicate offerings, tools, or symbols of authority, and their quiet presence among the more visually striking bronzes often relegates them to secondary importance. Still, their endurance matters. Unlike organic materials or fragile ceramics, these stone objects were made to last, yet they were buried and broken as if permanence was never the goal. This contradiction hints at beliefs that valued the act of creation and destruction over longevity. As excavations continue at and around Sanxingdui, new pits and artifacts occasionally surface, but the stone vessels remain stubbornly enigmatic. They suggest hands that worked with patience and intent, guided by ideas that no longer have words. Each vessel feels like a fragment of a larger system that collapsed or transformed so completely that even its purpose dissolved, leaving only weight, shape, and unanswered questions pressed into the soil. Whatever meaning the stone vessels once held, it was buried with them, waiting in silence beneath Sanxingdui's fields for a logic that modern archaeology has not yet learned to read. Göbekli Tepe's circular enigma. Wind-scoured limestone ridges in southeastern Anatolia conceal little at first glance, yet the hill later named Göbekli Tepe rises as an anomaly in a landscape that once supported only transient human presence. The terrain is dry, exposed, and seemingly inhospitable, shaped by erosion rather than human intention. For thousands of years, it offered no hint that anything remarkable lay beneath its surface. It was only through a systematic survey that stone fragments suggested something more deliberate below, eventually revealing a structure that does not fit comfortably within the known patterns of early human activity, especially given its scale, complexity, and apparent purpose. Measured against the technologies humanity had not yet developed, the existence of this site immediately distorts the timeline it occupies. Göbekli Tepe dates to the pre-pottery Neolithic period, roughly the 10th millennium BCE, a time before agriculture, ceramic production, or permanent villages had emerged in the region. The people associated with this era are generally understood to have lived as hunter-gatherers, moving seasonally and leaving minimal architectural traces. Yet the structures uncovered here demand planning, coordination, and sustained labour that appear incompatible with such a lifestyle, challenging long-held assumptions about how and when complex construction became possible. Beneath the shallow soil, the ground resolves into a pattern of carefully arranged stone circles that repeat with deliberate precision rather than accident. Each enclosure follows a similar design, defined by massive limestone pillars set into circular walls, with two larger monoliths standing at the centre. The repetition of this layout across multiple enclosures suggests a shared architectural concept rather than improvisation. These circles were not randomly placed. They required surveying, alignment, and an understanding of spatial relationships that implies forethought extending far beyond immediate necessity. Each upright pillar introduces a practical problem that should not exist at this stage of human capability. Many weigh several tons and were quarried from nearby limestone bedrock, using stone tools, then transported uphill to the site. The absence of wheeled vehicles, draft animals, or metal implements forces archaeologists to confront unanswered questions about labour organisation and engineering methods. Moving, shaping, and erecting these stones would have required coordinated effort from dozens of individuals, sustained over long periods, suggesting forms of social cooperation that predate established models of leadership and hierarchy. Carved across the limestone surfaces are animals rendered with a confidence that suggests observation rather than decoration. Foxes, snakes, wild boar, birds, and other creatures appear in relief, their bodies positioned as if in motion rather than symbolic abstraction. The carvings are consistent in style across different enclosures, implying shared conventions or meanings now lost. No human figures dominate these scenes, and there are no obvious narrative sequences, leaving the relationship between the animals and the people who carved them unresolved, suspended between ritual significance and unknown cosmology. Cut directly into the bedrock nearby are quarry marks that reveal how closely construction and landscape were intertwined. Several unfinished pillars remain attached to the limestone plateau, showing that stones were shaped at the source before being detached and moved uphill. The orientation of some enclosures also appears deliberate, with consistent alignment patterns that suggest careful positioning rather than convenience. While no definitive astronomical function has been proven, the repeated directional choices imply awareness of the surrounding space and sky. These details indicate that Göbekli Tepe was not only built with effort, but with foresight that extended beyond the stones themselves. What unsettles researchers most is not the artistry of the site, but the type of society required to sustain its construction. No evidence of permanent housing associated with Göbekli Tepe, nor storage facilities, would suggest an agricultural surplus. Instead, the site appears to have been a focal point, perhaps drawing groups together periodically rather than supporting continuous habitation. This raises the possibility that communal belief or ritual activity may have preceded rather than followed the development of settled life, reversing conventional interpretations of early social evolution. At some point after centuries of use, the builders made a decision that altered the fate of the entire complex. The stone circles were deliberately filled with rubble, soil, and broken stone, effectively burying them intact. This was not the result of natural collapse or abandonment. The infill was intentional and methodical. The act of sealing the structures suggests closure rather than neglect, yet no clear explanation survives to indicate why a site requiring such effort would be deliberately hidden beneath the earth. No hearths, homes, or burial chambers appear within the enclosures, leaving the space curiously detached from everyday life. The absence of domestic debris reinforces the idea that Göbekli Tepe served a purpose separate from survival or residence. The tools found at the site are minimal and largely incidental, offering little insight into daily activity. What remains is an architectural shell without context, a place defined by what it excludes as much as by what it contains, intensifying the sense that its function lay outside ordinary human routines. Later Neolithic settlements across the region echo fragments of Göbekli Tepe's ideas without ever reproducing its ambition. Stone pillars and symbolic motifs appear elsewhere, but none approach the scale or concentration found on this hill. It is as if the knowledge required to conceive the site is dispersed or transformed, leaving only partial reflections behind. The architectural language persists, yet the original impulse that drove its creation fades, suggesting a brief convergence of intention that was never fully repeated. Standing at the intersection of intention and uncertainty, the stone circles resist classification as either monument or meeting place. They were not erected to mark territory, house the dead, or shelter the living in any obvious way. Instead, they occupy a conceptual space that archaeology can describe but not define, anchored in a period when human societies were still experimenting with belief, cooperation, and expression. Göbekli Tepe remains a structure built before its purpose can be clearly understood, challenging the idea that meaning must always follow necessity. Before agriculture reshaped the land and cities learned to organize belief, someone chose to gather stone into circles on a barren hill, and then ensured they would be hidden from memory. The coral castle of Pohnpei, Nan Madol. Low tides expose channels of dark water and mangrove roots, and beyond them, Nan Madol appears not as a ruin on land, but as a presence suspended between sea and stone. Approached by canoe, the site emerges gradually, its walls rising directly from shallow lagoons rather than solid ground. Located off the eastern shore of Pohnpei in Micronesia, Nan Madol occupies a coral reef flat where conventional building would seem impractical. Yet here, hundreds of thousands of tons of basalt were arranged into an artificial city, whose boundaries are defined not by roads or fields, but by water that continually shifts and returns. Rather than streets or foundations, the site organises itself into narrow canals that divide dozens of artificial islets into a rigid, almost geometric grid. Archaeological surveys identify nearly 100 separate islets, each constructed atop coral fill and enclosed by stone walls. The canals between them vary in width, but follow a deliberate pattern, suggesting planned navigation rather than incidental flooding. This layout creates the impression of a city designed to be entered and experienced by boat, where movement itself becomes part of the structure's logic, and orientation depends on tides as much as direction. Stacked in horizontal courses like immense timber, columnar basalt forms walls whose mass seems incompatible with the fragile coral beneath them. Individual columns can weigh several tons, yet they were fitted together without mortar, relying solely on gravity and placement. The basalt itself does not naturally occur in abundance on the reef, meaning it had to be transported from other parts of Pohnpei. How these stones were moved across water and lifted into position remains unclear, especially given the absence of metal tools, draft animals, or wheeled transport in the archaeological record. No clear evidence remains of where the builders lived while assembling structures that demanded prolonged and coordinated effort. Excavations have not uncovered large residential zones capable of supporting the labour force implied by the scale of construction. This absence raises questions about whether workers were brought in temporarily, supported by surrounding communities, or organised under a system that left little material trace. The city appears monumental, yet the lives that sustained its creation remain largely invisible, preserved neither in architecture nor in artefacts. Fresh water and food were never naturally abundant on the reef flat where Nan Madol stands, yet construction on this scale would have required a reliable supply over many years. Archaeological evidence suggests that daily necessities were transported from inland Pohnpei, implying repeated canoe travel across tidal channels. Some islets contain features interpreted as elite residences or ritual spaces rather than storage or production areas. The absence of agricultural infrastructure within the complex reinforces the idea that Nan Madol depended on an external support system, one whose organisation and duration remain difficult to reconcile with the physical isolation of the site. Tides move in and out of the complex as if they were part of its original design rather than a threat to its survival. Water levels rise and fall through the canals, influencing access to different islets at different times of day. Some walls appear positioned to deflect currents, while others create sheltered pools. This relationship between structure and sea suggests an understanding of local marine behaviour, yet the long-term consequences of saltwater exposure would have been inevitable. The builders accepted erosion as part of the environment they chose to dominate. Oral traditions preserved on Pohnpei describe Nan Madol as the seat of a ruling system, yet they offer little detail about how such authority was physically constructed. These accounts associate the site with the Saudeleur dynasty, remembered as a centralised and demanding rule, but they do not explain the logistics behind the city's creation. The stories emphasise power and control rather than engineering, leaving a gap between social memory and material reality. What survives is the outline of governance without the means by which it imposed itself on the landscape. Every attempt to reconstruct the building process must account for heavy stone being lifted and aligned on shifting reef flats without metal tools. The instability of the coral base complicates theories that rely on ramps or simple leverage. Even minor miscalculations could have caused walls to collapse during construction. Yet many structures remain standing, indicating methods that balanced weight and placement with surprising effectiveness. These solutions were likely adapted to local conditions, but no physical evidence survives to show exactly how builders compensated for an environment that resisted permanence. Some islets support massive compounds, while others remain sparsely developed, suggesting a hierarchy of spaces that is no longer legible. Certain areas contain high walls and enclosed courtyards, while neighbouring islets show little more than foundations. This uneven distribution implies specialised functions, possibly ceremonial, administrative or residential, though none can be confirmed definitively. The lack of inscriptions or durable symbolic markers leaves interpretation dependent on layout alone, forcing archaeologists to read meaning from spatial relationships rather than explicit intent. When the site was eventually abandoned, it did not collapse into ruin but lingered in partial use before being left to the encroaching sea. There is no clear evidence of violent destruction or sudden disaster. Instead, vegetation slowly overtook the walls, and tidal forces resumed their dominance. The quiet nature of this abandonment contrasts with the effort invested in construction, suggesting that whatever social system sustained Nan Madol changed gradually rather than abruptly, leaving the city behind without erasing it. Seen as a whole, Nan Madol resists comparison to known ancient cities, functioning neither as a port, fortress, nor settlement in the conventional sense. It stands as an architectural decision imposed on water, demanding solutions that land-based construction never required. The city's form reveals intention, but its purpose remains unresolved, suspended between political power, ritual significance, and environmental challenge. What remains is a structure that endured where it should not have, built in a place that offers no stable answers. Between reef and tide, someone chose to anchor authority to water itself, leaving behind a city that still offers no stable ground for explanation. Sacsayhuaman's fitted stone walls. Each massive stone of Sacsayhuaman fits against its neighbour with such exactness that the mind hesitates to accept that human hands alone could achieve it. The blocks vary in size, some weighing dozens of tons, yet their placement forms a continuous wall whose precision seems impossible for pre-modern construction. Observers often run their fingers along the seams, noting that no tool, even a thin blade, could slip between the surfaces. The interlocking shapes suggest a deep understanding of geometry and mass, one that allows walls to endure centuries of Andean earthquakes and weather without mortar, leaving scholars both in awe and bewildered at the method employed. The walls zigzag in deliberate angles, creating lines that challenge perception and obscure any simple interpretation of their design. From above, the terraces appear as a series of jagged teeth, a pattern that is both defensive and ceremonial in appearance. The irregular angles disrupt the continuity of movement, making it difficult to traverse quickly, yet the precision of alignment implies a careful plan rather than randomness. Each turn of the zigzag seems purposeful, yet no inscriptions or markers explain why the angles were chosen, leaving only the geometry itself as a silent witness to the knowledge of those who built it. Irregular blocks are locked together without mortar, their contours forming seams so precise that no tool can slip between them. The stones range from massive boulders to slightly smaller blocks, yet each finds its exact place as if guided by an unseen hand. This technique, known as ashlar masonry, is remarkable not only for its durability, but also for the consistency with which it is applied across the entire complex. No two stones are identical, yet the resulting wall is remarkably uniform, suggesting a level of craftsmanship and planning that surpasses most contemporary structures anywhere in the world. Granite and andesite were quarried from distant hills and moved into place, yet no method of transport or shaping has been verified. The nearest quarries are several kilometres away, and moving blocks weighing multiple tons uphill would have required extraordinary coordination. Archaeologists have proposed ramps, levers, and teams of hundreds, yet no physical evidence confirms these methods. Some speculate that natural ridges or simple gravity-assisted techniques may have aided the builders, but the truth remains uncertain. The effort required, combined with the precision of fitting, raises questions about the social organisation and labour systems that could sustain such an ambitious project. Some stones weigh dozens of tons, yet they rise in layered terraces that seem to defy gravity, suggesting unknown techniques or coordination. The terraces ascend the ridge in a stepped pattern, giving the impression that the walls themselves are alive with motion. Each stone bears the weight of those above, yet the walls have withstood centuries of seismic activity. Even minor misalignment would have caused collapse, but the builders achieved stability without mortar or modern reinforcement. The scale and balance hint at a sophisticated understanding of load distribution, but how such knowledge was acquired and applied remains one of the enduring enigmas of Sacsayhuaman. The purpose of these walls remains debated, with suggestions ranging from defensive fortification to ceremonial stage, but no evidence confirms any single function. Some theorists emphasize the jagged, intimidating appearance as ideal for protection against invaders, while others highlight the ceremonial alignment with Cusco and surrounding sacred sites. Archaeological excavation has revealed terraces and foundations for temporary structures, yet no residential remains suggest the site was not a permanent habitation. Perhaps the walls served multiple roles simultaneously, blending defense, ritual, and display, but the absence of records leaves their true intent suspended in uncertainty. After centuries of earthquakes and weather, the stones remain tightly fitted, their durability hinting at engineering knowledge lost to time. The Andes are a seismically active region, and most large stone structures eventually succumb to cracks or collapse. Yet Sacsayhuaman's walls stand intact, each block absorbing and redistributing stress across the terraces. Tiny gaps, invisible to the naked eye, may function as shock absorbers, a feature the builders discovered through observation and experimentation. The enduring stability of the walls continues to astonish engineers and archaeologists alike, raising the question of whether the builders had developed techniques now forgotten to modern science. Without mortar, theories rely on levers, ramps, and human ingenuity, but the irregular shapes and massive weight of the stones still defy simple explanation. Some researchers suggest the stones were shaped on site, with teams using stone hammers and wooden levers to guide each block into place. Others argue that the builders may have carved stones to fit pre-existing foundations, a reverse engineering approach. Yet no documentation, no surviving tools, and no practical demonstration have resolved these questions. The combination of irregular stone shapes, steep terraces, and precise fit remains one of the most confounding aspects of Inca construction. The arrangement commands attention, yet even as the walls dominate the urban space below, the reasoning behind their placement and design remains elusive. Sacsayhuaman overlooks Cusco, the Inca capital, providing both a physical and symbolic vantage point. Its terraces, zigzagging walls, and massive stones appear to assert authority over the landscape. Yet, how the architects chose specific lines, angles, and stone placement is unknown. The walls are both functional and monumental, embodying control and display simultaneously. They occupy a space that merges practical construction with psychological and ceremonial presence, leaving their intent open to interpretation centuries later. Walking along the terraces, one senses the deliberate rhythm of placement, the balance of mass and space, yet the intent behind each stone is unknowable. The walls create a tactile experience. Every step, turn, and elevation shift conveys the precision and ambition of the builders. Hands and eyes trace curves and edges that resist explanation, while the scale inspires awe that persists despite centuries of study. Each terrace seems to communicate both mastery and mystery, reminding observers that knowledge may once have existed to guide construction, yet it has been lost to time, leaving only the stones themselves to speak. The stones of Sacsayhuaman touch one another so perfectly that centuries have passed without a crack revealing the secrets of their construction. The submerged ruins of Yonaguni. Sharp edges rise in the murky water, forming lines that seem deliberate, yet the eye struggles to distinguish natural fractures from human design. At first glance, the terraces appear haphazard, broken by currents and sediment, but as divers move closer, the geometry becomes unmistakable. Straight edges, flat planes, and angular steps emerge from the haze. Light refracts off the submerged surfaces, creating illusions that both reveal and conceal form. Each stone seems to suggest intentionality, yet the ocean obscures any clear conclusion. Observers are left suspended between belief and doubt, the mind wrestling with the impossible precision of shapes forged before memory can record them. Flat terraces appear stacked with precision, their geometric rhythm hinting at a purpose that defies explanation under the shifting currents. Some rise like stairs to nowhere, others form broad platforms that seem artificially carved from the bedrock. Diver photographs and videos reveal parallel lines that run hundreds of meters, their straightness defying expectations of natural erosion. Even the smallest indentations align across terraces, hinting at design rather than coincidence. The arrangement suggests planning on a monumental scale, yet the ocean buries any hint of scaffolding, tools, or construction, leaving the question of origin unresolved and intensifying the sense of uncanny design beneath the waves. Measurements taken by divers reveal angles and alignments so consistent that skepticism persists alongside wonder, each observation raising more questions than answers. The right angles and terraces have been mapped with sonar, laser measurement, and detailed underwater sketches, confirming patterns that human hands could produce. Some stones appear deliberately cut to fit adjoining blocks, their flat surfaces extending for several meters. Yet the ocean's weight, sediment accumulation, and the geological forces of tectonic activity make it impossible to definitively conclude whether these alignments were natural or human-made. Each new dive produces data, yet instead of clarity, only deepens the tension between evidence and interpretation. Layers of sediment coat the surfaces, obscuring any clues about age, while suggesting centuries of submersion that predate human records in the region. Radiocarbon dating of nearby organic material provides only rough estimates, and rising sea levels complicate any timeline. If humans constructed these terraces, they would have lived in a coastal environment now under tens of meters of water, making access, labour, and settlement logistics extraordinarily difficult. Yet sediment layers also support the argument for natural formation, as currents and landslides could have sculpted terraces over millennia. Time itself has become an ally of uncertainty, masking origin while magnifying the mystery. Some features show perpendicular cuts and right angles so sharp that they challenge conventional explanations of erosion and tectonic activity. Vertical faces rise cleanly from terraces, their edges unbroken by typical waterware. Even small indentations appear consistent across surfaces, hinting at measurement or intentional carving. Geologists argue that certain tectonic fault lines could mimic such precision, yet the repetition and scale of these features stretch plausibility. The evidence remains ambiguous. The lines are too regular to ignore, yet too eroded to confirm as human handiwork. Every dive challenges assumptions about the power of nature versus the ingenuity of prehistoric builders. Hints of terraces and channels suggest potential human intervention, yet no artifacts confirm habitation, leaving only speculation about ancient coastal civilizations. Some researchers propose that a pre-Jomon culture could have constructed the site during a period of lower sea levels, when the platform would have been dry and accessible. Tools, pottery, or structural remains have not been discovered, however, leaving the theory unverified. The site exists as a fragment of possibility. Its form evokes purpose, yet tangible evidence remains absent. The ocean preserves and erases simultaneously, revealing shapes while withholding context, a paradox that sustains fascination and controversy. Shifting currents distort perception, making flat surfaces seem slanted and steps appear incomplete, forcing divers to rely on memory and measurement rather than sight alone. Visibility fluctuates between a few meters and complete haze, and underwater light bends over terraces in ways that warp angles and scale. Diver reports describe a surreal sense of disorientation, where a single dive may yield a staircase in one direction and a slope in another. This fluidity adds a psychological dimension to the mystery. Not only is the site ambiguous, but human perception is compromised, leaving the viewer unsure whether they see design, illusion, or the interplay of both. Monolithic slabs rise with apparent intention, their size and alignment suggesting deliberate placement, yet their function remains as opaque as the surrounding water. Some blocks span multiple terraces, creating what appears to be platforms or retaining walls. Others are freestanding, suggesting markers or boundaries. The scale of these formations, some reaching dozens of meters in length, implies coordinated effort if human construction is assumed, yet no surviving tools or traces of human manipulation have been found. Nature alone may explain some features, but the combination of linearity, alignment, and repetition resists a purely geological explanation, leaving a sense of deliberate intention suspended in ambiguity. Experts continue to debate whether Yonaguni represents a submerged city, a natural formation, or a combination of both, and each new dive reignites the controversy. Marine geologists emphasize the fracturing and jointing patterns in sandstone as consistent with erosion, while alternative researchers point to terraces, platforms, and steps as impossible to explain naturally. Every measurement is scrutinized and every observation challenged. Conferences, papers, and documentaries fuel both skepticism and wonder, yet no consensus emerges. The site exists in a state of perpetual liminality, simultaneously observed, analysed, and questioned, its true nature slipping through the grasp of explanation. Even as patterns emerge in the terraces and cuts, the structures resist narrative, existing between human understanding and geological possibility. Each dive offers glimpses of order and repetition that hint at design, yet erosion, sediment, and the ocean's currents obscure certainty. The formations are neither fully comprehensible nor entirely chaotic. They occupy a space of indecision that challenges both imagination and expertise. For those who explore the depths, Yonaguni offers no firm answers, only the sensation of standing on the boundary between history, geology, and the unknown, a place where the ocean conceals more than it reveals. Beneath the shifting currents, Yonaguni hovers between creation and chance, a mystery that the ocean refuses to fully reveal. The Baalbek Trilithon Platform. 3 colossal blocks dominate the view, their immense weight impossible to reconcile with human labour, yet they sit levelled with astonishing precision atop a platform that defies comprehension. The eye struggles to take in their sheer size, and even standing at the base, one senses the impossible scale of what has been achieved. Sunlight casts long shadows across the surface of the stones, revealing planes so flat that no modern hand could mimic them without machinery. The platform rises with deliberate intent, as if asserting authority over the surrounding valley, yet the techniques and knowledge that allowed its creation remain locked within the past. Each stone stretches over 16 metres in length, towering 3 metres high and weighing more than 800 tons, dimensions that boggle even modern calculation. Moving such a mass today would require cranes, engines, and reinforced platforms, yet the builders accomplished this with only ancient technology. The mind searches for comparative scale. Nothing in daily experience prepares one for blocks of this magnitude perfectly fitted in place. Even today, engineers marvel at the energy and organisation required, imagining countless labourers, levers and ropes, yet no trace remains to confirm how it was done. The precision of placement suggests an understanding of weight distribution and balance that remains extraordinary. Quarries lie kilometres away, across uneven terrain, and yet these stones were somehow moved, raising questions about methods lost to time and evidence that remains elusive. Geological surveys trace the origins of the Trilithon to distant limestone formations, requiring transport over rolling hills and riverbeds. Scholars propose rolling on logs, sledges or greased pathways, but even these methods strain credibility given the stone's immense mass. The coordination, timing and sheer manpower required would have rivaled modern industrial operations, yet no contemporaneous documentation exists to explain the feat. The mystery is amplified by the lack of scaffolding remnants, ramps or tool caches, leaving only the stones themselves as evidence of achievement. The platform itself is meticulously levelled, each trilithon perfectly aligned, creating a foundation so exact that it suggests knowledge of techniques far beyond conventional ancient engineering. Survey measurements reveal near-perfect horizontality, with deviations barely measurable. This precision allowed subsequent structures to rest upon a stable and uniform base, a requirement for architectural longevity. Scholars debate how builders achieved such uniformity, proposing water levelling, sighting lines, or rudimentary instruments, yet none fully explain the flawless result. The effect is not only functional but psychological. The stones appear almost deliberately monumental, as if designed to impress, intimidate, or convey mastery over both nature and material. Scholars propose rollers, sledges, or earthen ramps, but even these theories struggle to account for the practical realities of moving and setting such gargantuan blocks. Attempts to recreate the process in experimental archaeology highlight immense challenges. Friction, slope, and weight conspire against movement. Some hypothesize the use of lubrication, counterweights, or synchronized teams, yet these remain speculative. Modern engineers continue to be confounded, noting that even small miscalculations would have resulted in catastrophic collapse. The Trilithon's survival for millennia underscores the improbable skill of its builders, their methods leaving only questions behind. Compared to other megalithic projects across the ancient world, Baalbek's platform stands apart, not only in scale but in the precision and ambition of its construction. While Stonehenge, Pumapunku, and Sacsayhuaman awe with technique or design, Baalbek's trilithon dwarfs these by sheer mass and the audacity of placement. Each block challenges perception, compelling observers to recalibrate ideas of what ancient societies could achieve. The platform embodies ambition on a monumental level, merging practical engineering with monumental vision. Its uniqueness has made Baalbek a focal point for both scientific study and speculative wonder, as no comparable feat appears to exist in antiquity. Observers often pause in awe, unable to fully grasp the immensity of the stones, a sensation amplified by the impossibility of imagining the human effort required. Walking along the platform, one senses both the precision and the physical dominance of the stones. Their weight presses metaphorically against the mind. Historical travellers wrote of their astonishment, noting that mere mortals seemed incapable of lifting such masses, yet somehow they stand today intact. The psychological impact is intentional or incidental, yet it leaves every visitor humbled, aware that human ingenuity, ancient or otherwise, has reached heights that continue to defy explanation. The surfaces of the trilithon reveal subtle beveling and tool marks, yet no evidence exists of advanced tools capable of shaping such massive blocks with such uniformity. Close inspection shows faint grooves and smoothing that hint at deliberate shaping, yet the marks are too shallow to indicate modern chisels or saws. Some suggest the use of bronze or stone implements with careful patience over generations. Regardless of method, the tactile perfection invites speculation. Whether by genius, experimentation, or lost technique, the builders created blocks that fit with nearly impossible exactness, leaving modern hands to wonder what skill was applied. Speculation surrounds the purpose of the platform. Some suggest a ceremonial or religious function, others a structural, but no definitive records illuminate its original intent. It may have formed a foundation for a monumental temple complex, a stage for ritual, or simply a display of authority and capability. Archaeologists find hints of Roman-era modifications atop the platform, yet the original work predates much documentation. Its function remains layered in mystery, simultaneously practical and symbolic, standing as a testament to ambition, foresight, and the unknown. Every hypothesis provokes fascination, but no certainty. Standing at the base, the stones seem to challenge the limits of both physics and human ambition, leaving even the most seasoned engineers in quiet disbelief. Their scale dwarfs the observer, and their precision defies replication. Walking along the edge, one feels both grounded and humbled, as if encountering a monument not merely of stone, but of enigma itself. The platform speaks of knowledge, effort, and audacity lost to history, and every step reinforces the impossibility of fully comprehending it. Scholars and travellers alike depart with the same sensation. The past has left a puzzle far larger than human imagination seems capable of solving. Despite centuries of study and countless theories, the trilithon stones of Baalbek remain an enigma, challenging the limits of both ancient ingenuity and modern understanding. The unfinished obelisk of Aswan. A jagged shadow falls across the granite, revealing a monolith frozen mid-creation, its full potential left unrealized. The rough surface shows the labor of countless hands, yet the work stops abruptly, leaving a monument suspended in time. Sunlight glances across the fractures, highlighting both the precision of the initial cuts and the impossibility of completing such a colossal endeavor. Observers sense not just the physical scale but the suspended ambition. The human effort halted before it could fully transform raw stone into a perfected obelisk. In its unfinished state, the granite seems to echo centuries of both ingenuity and limitation. Towering above the quarry floor, the obelisk commands attention, its massive bulk a silent measure of human ambition and the limits of labor. Over 41 meters long and weighing approximately 1,200 tons, it dwarfs any nearby structures, casting a presence both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Even standing at its base, one struggles to comprehend the energy, coordination and knowledge required to shape and move such a stone. Comparisons to smaller, completed obelisks fail to convey its sheer magnitude, and the mind reels at the effort required for even a fraction of what was attempted here. Deep grooves and chisel marks etch the surface, evidence of painstaking work abruptly halted where progress was abandoned. The granite reveals deliberate strokes, careful shaping of angles, and smoothing of surfaces that demonstrate skill and patience. Yet these marks stop mid-process, leaving a record of human effort frozen in stone. Observers can trace the hands that worked here, imagining the techniques and rituals that accompanied the carving. Each indentation hints at tools used, manpower applied, and the extraordinary ambition behind an endeavour that ultimately could not be completed. A hairline fracture runs along the obelisk's length, subtle yet significant, suggesting why work may have ceased. Geologists note that the crack weakens the stone, making transport and erection perilous. The presence of this flaw raises questions about ancient decision-making, risk assessment, and resource management. Did the builders abandon the project to avoid catastrophe, or was it an unforeseen problem discovered too late? Regardless, the fracture leaves a tangible reminder that even monumental human ambition is vulnerable to nature's inherent unpredictability. Ancient engineers likely relied on ramps, levers, and synchronized labor, yet the methods required to move and upright such a mass remain speculative. Theories propose teams of workers hauling stones on sledges lubricated with water or other substances, combined with inclined planes to gradually elevate the obelisk. Even the most plausible reconstructions highlight the enormity of the challenge, showing how easily error could have led to disaster. Without written records, each hypothesis remains uncertain, emphasizing that the unfinished obelisk is as much a puzzle of human ingenuity as it is of raw stone. In contrast, other completed obelisks rise as flawless monuments, highlighting both the ambition and the technological limits exposed by this unfinished attempt. Luxor, Karnak, and Heliopolis feature polished monoliths that were successfully transported and erected, demonstrating that ancient Egyptians possessed incredible skill. Yet the size of the Aswan obelisk dwarfs these achievements, making its incompletion a silent testament to challenges that even the most capable labourers could not overcome. The comparison underscores the mystery, why this obelisk, unlike its peers, remains tethered to the quarry, an enormous promise left unrealised. Scattered chips of granite litter the surrounding bedrock, tangible evidence of effort, frustration, and human presence. Each fragment tells a story of strikes, hammering, and shaping, providing clues about techniques and perseverance. Walkers along the site note the sheer volume of discarded stone, an accidental archive of human ambition halted mid-progress. The presence of these fragments emphasises the reality of the endeavour. It was physical, intense, and costly. Yet all these traces ultimately lead to the same question silently inscribed in the quarry. Why was the project abandoned? Granite's natural faults and dense composition present obstacles invisible to casual observation, offering hints as to why the work may have stopped. The bedrock beneath the obelisk contains veins of weakness, requiring careful selection and alignment to avoid fracture. Even minor miscalculations in planning or execution could have resulted in catastrophic breakage. Modern geological surveys confirm these hidden challenges, yet the precise reasoning behind halting the work remains speculative. The unfinished obelisk thus becomes both a testament to human mastery over stone and a reminder that nature always imposes limits. Though unfinished, the obelisk sits among a culture that prized monumental construction, hinting at ceremonial, political, or religious intentions now obscured by time. Ancient Egypt's obelisks symbolized solar worship, pharaonic power, and cosmic order, yet this immense stone never fulfilled that symbolic role. Scholars speculate it may have been intended for a temple, an open plaza, or a grand avenue, yet the lack of completion leaves its purpose ambiguous. The suspended state of the obelisk adds a layer of mystery, transforming it into a monument of possibility rather than realization, bridging history, ambition, and human curiosity. Standing before its massive, incomplete form, one senses both the magnitude of ambition and the stark reminder that even colossal human projects can be interrupted. Its weight, length, and position speak to a scale of effort almost unimaginable today, yet its unfinished state arrests the imagination. Viewers reflect on the intersection of skill, will, and unforeseen challenges, acknowledging that the ancients accomplished much yet could not conquer every obstacle. The obelisk remains both evidence of remarkable craftsmanship and a monument to an unfinished endeavour, leaving a lingering question about what might have been achieved. Silent and incomplete, The unfinished obelisk of Aswan stands as a testament to human ambition interrupted, a colossal question carved in granite that has never been answered. The stone spheres of Costa Rica. The first touch reveals a smooth, almost impossibly round surface, as if the stone itself were coaxed into perfection by unseen hands. Light glances across the curves, emphasizing the flawless geometry and the mystery of its creation. Despite centuries exposed to weather, erosion has left little impact on the precision of these spheres, hinting at careful selection of rock and skillful workmanship. Observers cannot help but wonder at the level of sophistication required to achieve such uniformity with only rudimentary tools. Each stone seems to challenge perception, a perfect object that belongs to no known natural process. Some spheres barely fit in a palm, while others tower over 2 meters high, yet each shares the same surprising precision of form. Their scale varies widely, yet every stone conveys the same sense of intentionality. The diversity of size suggests purpose or hierarchy, though no evidence confirms whether they were symbols of status, practical markers, or something else entirely. Even the largest stones, impossibly heavy and smooth, show the same near-perfect roundness as their smaller counterparts. This meticulous attention to form across multiple scales adds another layer of intrigue to the collection. Tiny grooves and subtle curves trace the laborious shaping process, hinting at techniques lost to time and tools that remain unidentified. Close inspection reveals shallow indentations and striations consistent with repeated abrasion, but the exact methods remain speculative. Experiments in stone shaping show how difficult it would be to produce spheres of such precision without an advanced understanding of material properties. Each groove carries echoes of human effort, labour applied with patience and persistence, yet the absence of contemporary records leaves all specifics unknown. The craftsmanship alone captivates scholars and laypeople alike, pointing to knowledge now lost. Clusters appear carefully arranged, some in lines or arcs, yet the logic of their placement remains inscrutable, defying any simple explanation. Patterns suggest planning beyond mere decoration, with spheres often situated on level ground or in proximity to natural landmarks. Certain groupings imply astronomical alignments or ceremonial pathways, yet no single theory fully accounts for the arrangements. The lack of a written record or oral history deepens the enigma, leaving only observation and measurement to hint at intent. Each cluster provokes curiosity, a tangible reminder that ancient minds engaged with space in ways still invisible to modern understanding. Scholars debate whether the stones were carved with hammering, abrasion, or a combination of methods, yet no definitive evidence survives to confirm any method. The granite and other rock types present exceptional hardness, making the achievement even more remarkable. Attempts to replicate the spheres with known pre-Columbian tools reveal the extreme patience, skill, and coordination required, suggesting collective labour over long periods. Some propose wooden moulds, others suggest repeated polishing with sand, yet each hypothesis raises as many questions as it answers. The sphere's perfection continues to defy conventional explanations of ancient engineering capabilities. While other cultures created stone artifacts, nothing matches the uniformity and spherical perfection found in these enigmatic Costa Rican creations. Comparisons to Olmec heads, European menhirs, or Andean megaliths emphasize uniqueness. Unlike these, the spheres emphasize mathematical consistency and tactile perfection. Even cultures with advanced stonework rarely approach such geometric precision without modern instruments. Their distinctiveness makes them a singular achievement in human history, a reminder that isolated societies could produce forms both highly ordered and utterly mysterious. Observers are left with the paradox of simplicity in form yet complexity in execution. Speculation surrounds symbolic meaning, celestial markers, territorial signs, or ceremonial objects, but each theory is as elusive as the people who made them. Some alignments correspond loosely with solstices, suggesting astronomical observation. Others cluster near ancient settlements, implying social or political significance. Yet the spheres do not conform neatly to any pattern, leaving their purpose suspended between hypothesis and uncertainty. Without artifacts or records explaining intent, scholars must infer meaning from placement, size, and context, producing a variety of equally plausible and equally unconfirmed interpretations. Modern surveys and 3D measurements reveal astonishing accuracy in roundness, weight, and alignment, yet scientific scrutiny only deepens the mystery. Laser scanning shows some spheres deviate by mere millimeters from a perfect sphere, a precision remarkable for pre-industrial craftsmanship. Measurements of mass and center of gravity reveal uniformity that suggests deliberate engineering rather than accidental formation. Researchers continue to study spacing, clustering, and alignment patterns, but even advanced technology cannot reveal why these stones were made or how so many were perfected with such consistency. Every sphere bears silent testimony to human effort, laboriously shaped and moved, yet its true purpose is forever obscured by history's gaps. Soil erosion and agricultural activity have displaced some stones, yet many remain in clusters that hint at original intent. The labour invested in moving and positioning these weights, some hundreds of kilograms, attests to organised human effort and perhaps ceremonial significance. Their survival, despite centuries of neglect and natural wear, underscores both their durability and the meticulous craftsmanship that created them. Each sphere invites wonder at the ingenuity, skill, and intent of its long-gone makers. Standing among the stones, one feels both the meticulous care behind their creation and the persistent enigma of intentions that remain unknown. Observers are confronted with perfection without explanation, a human achievement whose context has been lost. The sphere's enduring presence evokes contemplation. They are simultaneously familiar in form yet alien in execution, a puzzle carved into the earth by vanished hands. Walking among them, one senses that every sphere carries the weight of mystery, a challenge to the imagination and a monument to the unknown. Each sphere, flawless and enigmatic, sits as a silent witness to a vanished people, leaving questions of purpose, skill and intention unanswered to this day. Pumapunku's modular stone geometry. The arrangement of stones suggests intention on a scale that challenges modern assumptions about ancient engineering and planning. At first glance, the fragments scattered across the plateau appear chaotic, yet closer study reveals a meticulous order, as if the ruins themselves are a coded message left by builders whose knowledge has been lost to time. Archaeologists are struck by the precision of the cuts and the repetitive nature of the modules, which seem to follow a consistent system, indicating a level of design sophistication unparalleled in the region. Even in ruin, Pumapunku evokes the sense of a grand, deliberate plan. Every module seems designed to interact with others, forming a system whose rules remain a mystery to archaeologists and engineers alike. T-shaped blocks, L-shaped connectors, and precisely beveled stones indicate that these were not mere monoliths, but components of a modular structure. The way each block might have fit with others implies planning, measurement, and calculation far beyond what is typically attributed to the builders of this period. Scholars remain divided over whether the modules were intended for practical assembly, ceremonial purpose, or both, and no surviving records clarify their intent. The sheer number of precisely cut blocks implies careful coordination, a project that demanded both foresight and meticulous organisation. Estimates suggest hundreds of large stones were involved, many weighing several tons, each shaped with uniformity that hints at an advanced understanding of proportion and measurement. The scale of effort required to quarry, transport and position these pieces implies a society capable of collective, organised labour with specialised skills. Whether this reflects hierarchical control, communal effort, or unknown engineering techniques remains an open question, leaving the full scope of Pumapunku tantalisingly out of reach. Marks along the stones hint at deliberate shaping processes, evidence of techniques that were sophisticated yet remain unexplained. Grooves, incisions and beveled edges suggest repeated abrasion and shaping, yet no tools capable of producing such precision in granite have been found. Experiments with traditional Andean stonework techniques reveal that reproducing these cuts with rudimentary tools would have required extraordinary patience, skill, and knowledge of material properties. The work reflects more than brute force. It implies observation, calculation, and craftsmanship that modern researchers still struggle to explain. How these massive blocks were moved into place remains uncertain, raising questions about labour, tools, and methods lost to history. Some stones weigh over 130 tons, yet there is no evidence of ramps, sleds, or other mechanisms capable of manoeuvring them across uneven terrain. Theories range from log rollers and ropes to complex pulleys, but none fully account for the precision placement of interlocking modules. The question of transportation amplifies the mystery. The stones themselves are impressive, but the logistics of assembly suggest knowledge and techniques that have vanished with the builders. Archaeological analysis of surface grooves and drill marks suggests that stone shaping may have involved not only abrasion, but also advanced chiseling techniques, with evidence of repeated scoring to achieve uniform dimensions. Some blocks display channels and grooves designed to interlock precisely with neighbouring stones, indicating premeditated planning rather than improvised assembly. Studies comparing stone density and fracture patterns reveal that builders accounted for material stress, carefully choosing which blocks would bear weight or form key structural modules. Even today, replicating these cuts with traditional tools requires extraordinary skill, underscoring the sophistication embedded in Pumapunku's modular design. Patterns of connection between the stones reveal an underlying logic, but the overall structure defies complete reconstruction or interpretation. Archaeologists have attempted to reassemble fragments digitally, revealing modular arrangements that fit perfectly in theory, yet the total design remains elusive. Some sequences suggest functional layouts, corridors or platforms, while others imply symbolic or ritual significance. Despite technological analysis, the purpose behind these connections is impossible to confirm, leaving only the silent testimony of precision and an enduring puzzle for modern eyes. When compared to other megalithic sites, Pumapunku stands out for its modular complexity, precision, and apparent understanding of interlocking geometry. Unlike monolithic constructions such as Sacsayhuaman or Baalbek, Pumapunku emphasizes repeatable modules with exact angles and standardized dimensions. This modular approach suggests knowledge of measurement, ratios, and assembly principles rarely attributed to cultures of the era. The precision achieved, combined with the scale and variation of stones, makes the site a singular phenomenon in the history of human construction, highlighting skills that defy easy categorization or replication. Modern surveys reveal subtle alignments and angles that suggest advanced knowledge, though their purpose and function remain speculative. 3D scanning and laser mapping show that blocks conform to near-perfect planes, angles, and alignment grids. Some researchers speculate that these alignments could relate to astronomical observation or ritual orientation, but no evidence definitively supports such claims. The technological insights gleaned today amplify both admiration and confusion, demonstrating mastery in execution while leaving the purpose shrouded in mystery. Researchers speculate on ritual, astronomical, or cultural significance, yet none fully account for the precision and scale of the construction. Some hypothesize ceremonial platforms, while others propose markers for cosmological observation. Local legends speak of sacred engineering, though oral histories are fragmentary. Even the most convincing interpretations fail to explain why modular techniques were chosen over simpler monolithic designs, or why this knowledge seems to have vanished entirely after Pumapunku's abandonment. The contrast between ambition, technique, and disappearance intensifies the sense of a vanished mastery. Even in its fragmented state, the site conveys mastery and deliberation, leaving the mind to ponder what larger design once existed. The ruins are more than rubble. They are evidence of a deliberate system, painstakingly constructed yet impossible to fully decipher. Every interlocking module, beveled edge, and repetitive pattern reinforces the impression of human ingenuity stretched to its limits. Walking among the fragments, one senses the calculated intelligence behind the construction, while the absence of records ensures that the deeper meaning remains just out of reach, a challenge to imagination and reason alike. The stones lie in deliberate disarray, a fractured puzzle that continues to mock every attempt to understand the minds that shaped it. The Longyu Grottos. Historians remain baffled by the intentional removal of massive stone blocks, questioning what motivated such a labour-intensive undertaking. Unlike other ancient constructions, the Longyu Grottos reveal no written explanation or cultural record, yet the precision evident in their walls and ceilings suggests planning of extraordinary sophistication. Every excavation appears deliberate, and the coordination required implies a society capable of organising vast labour forces with knowledge that has since vanished. The scale alone provokes awe, but the absence of historical context leaves scholars grasping for meaning amid the enigmatic subterranean chambers. Analyses of tool marks indicate methods far beyond what was previously assumed possible, suggesting a level of expertise unrecorded in known history. The rock surfaces bear parallel grooves and incisions that defy simple chisel work, pointing to techniques capable of shaping massive stone blocks with remarkable uniformity. Investigators attempting to replicate the marks using conventional bronze or stone tools find the task nearly impossible, underscoring a technological sophistication that is otherwise absent from artifacts of the period. Every groove seems purposeful, hinting at labour that combines skill, patience, and intimate understanding of the material. Evidence points to repeated planning, with each chamber appearing as part of a coordinated system rather than isolated excavations. The grottos form a network of interconnected spaces, often aligned with consistent dimensions and orientations. Spatial relationships suggest deliberate sequencing, yet the overall blueprint remains elusive. Modern mapping techniques reveal corridors, pillars, and niches that fit together in ways implying intentional modular design. Scholars are left speculating whether the architects followed a master plan, a lost set of guidelines, or an intuition-based system, but the complexity indicates cognitive capacities far beyond casual excavation. Theories abound about the builder's purpose, ranging from storage and ritual to symbolic demonstration of control, yet none are substantiated. Some propose that the grottos served as hidden granaries or water reservoirs, while others suggest ceremonial functions related to ancestor veneration or cosmology. No artifacts, inscriptions, or traces of ritual have been found to support these interpretations. Even the most persuasive hypothesis cannot fully reconcile the enormous labour and precision with the absence of a definitive purpose. The void between evidence and explanation intensifies the sense of deliberate mystery surrounding the site. Careful examination of the floor and ceiling surfaces reveals patterns suggesting intentional levelling and alignment across chambers, implying advanced knowledge of geometry. Some walls contain precise right angles and uniform heights that would have required consistent measurement techniques, yet no instruments have been identified from the period capable of achieving such results. The regularity of spacing between pillars hints at pre-calculated structural loads, suggesting that the creators not only envisioned the final layout but executed it with remarkable consistency that remains inexplicable. Geologists note that the stone itself was carefully selected, with density and fracture patterns considered in ways that hint at advanced material knowledge. The sandstone used is remarkably uniform, and certain blocks appear chosen to bear load or maintain structural integrity. Some chambers display subtle adjustments that absorb stress and prevent collapse, suggesting empirical engineering insights rarely documented elsewhere. The material choices indicate not only aesthetic or functional sensibility, but also awareness of the long-term consequences of excavation. Modern scientists continue to study these patterns, seeking clues to methods lost over 2 millennia. Local traditions preserve no memory of the grotto's creation, leaving a gap between physical evidence and historical record that deepens the mystery. Even within surrounding villages, legends reference the caves only vaguely, with no credible narrative about their origin or purpose. The absence of oral history is striking, especially given the scale and labour investment required. This silence raises questions about cultural transmission, whether knowledge was intentionally suppressed, forgotten due to societal disruption, or never documented at all. The grottos remain a physical record without a human story to explain it. Researchers debate whether the labour required could have been completed with primitive tools alone, highlighting the extraordinary organisational skill that must have been employed. Experiments with simple chisels and hammers demonstrate that replicating even a fraction of the work would require thousands of hours and coordinated teams. Yet no evidence suggests the existence of more advanced tools or mechanised aids in that period. The incongruence between available technology and the achievements observed drives continued speculation about lost knowledge or unconventional methods that modern science has yet to uncover. Comparisons to other ancient excavations reveal no precedent for the Longyu Grotto's combination of volume, uniformity, and precision. While subterranean sites exist worldwide, few match the scale of Longyu, and none demonstrate the same systematic approach to chamber sizing and alignment. The consistency of dimensions and angles across multiple grottos is unparalleled, challenging assumptions about ancient construction techniques. Archaeologists continue to examine parallels, but the grottos resist categorization, existing as a singular phenomenon that defies familiar historical or cultural frameworks. Speculation on symbolic or cosmological significance remains tentative, with investigators unable to correlate features to known cultural practices of the era. Some suggest that orientational spacing may reflect ritual priorities or astronomical alignment, yet no evidence conclusively supports such interpretations. Artifacts, if they existed, may have been removed or decayed, leaving the architecture itself as the only testimony. Even the most imaginative reconstructions cannot reveal the full intention behind the design, and the absence of corroborating cultural markers ensures that the grotto's deeper meaning remains shrouded. Even decades after discovery, the questions raised by these caverns outnumber answers, suggesting knowledge deliberately lost or never recorded. Modern surveys, 3D scans, and geological analyses illuminate aspects of technique, labour, and stability, yet the essential mystery endures. Every passage, pillar, and polished wall hints at intention, yet the broader narrative eludes comprehension. Scholars can describe and measure, but they cannot explain why or how the grottos were built with such precision, nor can they confirm the purpose the builders envisioned. The site resists certainty, preserving an air of deliberate enigma that transcends time. Human hands carved these caverns with skill we cannot replicate, leaving a hidden labyrinth whose secrets remain suspended beyond the reach of history. The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni. Entering the Hypogeum, one is immediately aware of a subtle vibration in the air, as though the rock itself carries faint whispers from centuries past. Descending through narrow passageways, the visitor encounters sudden shifts in light and shadow, revealing chambers carved with extraordinary care. The air grows cooler and denser with each step, and the echo of footsteps seems amplified by unseen angles. Archaeologists have noted that the very atmosphere seems deliberate, as though the architects intended the human experience to be enveloped by both sound and space, a subtle orchestration whose purpose remains elusive. Intricate niches and carved recesses line the walls, each carefully sculpted to accommodate objects or perhaps echo patterns of unseen rituals. Many of these alcoves are precisely measured and consistently positioned, implying forethought and planning across multiple chambers. The smoothness of the limestone, combined with subtle curvature and proportional repetition, suggests the builders had both artistic vision and technical skill. Yet despite the meticulous execution, no tools, drawings, or written records have survived to explain how or why these features were created, leaving only the tangible result of a vanished culture. Sound behaves unpredictably here. A single voice can resonate through multiple chambers, hinting that acoustics may have played a deliberate role in its use. Researchers experimenting with modern recordings have noted that certain frequencies amplify in specific rooms, while others fade entirely. This effect cannot be attributed to random geometry, suggesting that the architects understood how sound travels through subterranean spaces. The possibility that rituals, chanting, or musical ceremonies were enhanced by such acoustics opens questions about spiritual practices and cognitive sophistication. Even though no direct evidence confirms these hypotheses, scattered human remains reveal meticulous placement, suggesting a reverence or ceremonial significance whose meaning has long been lost. Anthropological studies indicate that thousands of individuals may have been interred here over several centuries, yet the arrangement lacks the disorder typical of mass burials. Bones appear deliberately positioned, sometimes grouped, sometimes isolated within specific niches, indicating ritualized behavior. Analysis shows minimal signs of post-depositional disturbance, which implies careful handling and a respect for spatial order. How these practices intersected with daily life or spiritual beliefs remains one of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries. Careful examination of the floor and ceiling surfaces reveals patterns suggesting intentional leveling and alignment across chambers, implying advanced knowledge of geometry. Some walls contain precise right angles and uniform heights that would have required consistent measurement techniques, yet no instruments have been identified from the period capable of achieving such results. The regularity of spacing between niches and chambers hints at pre-calculated considerations of structural balance and possibly ceremonial flow. These geometric decisions, combined with acoustic effects, suggest the Hypogeum was conceived as an integrated environment where space, sound, and human interaction were intertwined in a way we are only beginning to perceive. When excavations began in 1902, archaeologists were confronted with an elaborate subterranean labyrinth, unlike anything recorded in Mediterranean prehistory. The discovery stunned researchers who had expected only ordinary cave formations. As they cleared debris and documented chamber after chamber, the complexity and precision defied contemporary understanding. Early interpretations ranged from natural anomaly to sophisticated ritual site, but no consensus emerged. The hypogeum's sheer intricacy, coupled with a lack of comparable structures, forced a re-evaluation of what prehistoric societies were capable of accomplishing underground. The limestone was hollowed with precision, yet scholars remain uncertain whether simple tools or unknown techniques achieved the intricate chambers and smooth walls. Chisels, picks, and primitive hammers leave marks inconsistent with some observed features, prompting speculation about lost methods or innovations. The work would have required immense labour, coordination, and knowledge of stone properties to prevent collapse. Even modern excavation attempts to replicate the chambers using Bronze Age techniques result in irregular surfaces and fractures, underscoring the extraordinary skill of the original builders and leaving the tools and methods of construction an enduring puzzle. Faint red ochre traces and symbolic carvings hint at ritualistic or spiritual intentions, though no inscriptions clearly identify the beliefs or culture behind them. Certain motifs recur across multiple rooms, yet their significance remains indecipherable. Some patterns appear abstract, while others suggest human or animal forms, possibly encoding cosmological or societal information. The careful placement of these decorations, often in niches or near interments, implies they played a meaningful role in ceremonial life. But without corroborating records, we are left interpreting intentions solely from spatial and visual evidence. Compared to other underground ceremonial sites in Europe, the hypogeum's layered chambers and acoustic properties set it apart as an architectural mystery with no clear precedent. Sites such as Newgrange or the rock-cut tombs of Sardinia share some ritual or funerary elements, but none match the hypogeum's combination of subterranean depth, precision, and sensory manipulation. The architecture suggests a conceptual ambition rarely seen elsewhere, as if the creators sought to produce an environment that transcended ordinary physical function and invited both reverence and psychological impact. Scholars remain divided on whether this uniqueness reflects isolated innovation or lost knowledge. Modern preservation and acoustic studies have revealed more questions than answers, as digital reconstructions and analyses fail to clarify why the structure was conceived in such complexity. Laser scanning and sound modelling illuminate the spatial relationships and reveal hidden resonances, yet the results deepen rather than resolve the enigma. Attempts to simulate ritual experience indicate intentional design for gatherings, yet the absence of artifacts confirming ceremonies leaves interpretation speculative. Each study highlights the hypogeum's deliberate sophistication, emphasizing the tension between empirical understanding and the lingering mysteries of human intention. Despite extensive research, the interplay of space, sound, and burial practices continues to challenge historians, leaving the hypogeum's purpose tantalizingly elusive. Every corridor and chamber offers clues that simultaneously suggest rational design and impenetrable secrecy. The more investigators analyze, the more evident it becomes that this underground world was conceived with a vision that modern society cannot fully grasp, preserving an aura of enigma that transcends archaeology, architecture, and history alike. Silent corridors and hidden chambers guard secrets that have outlasted empires, defying every attempt to unravel their meaning. The Cyclopean Walls of Tiryns. The sheer magnitude of the stones defies imagination, each block weighing several tons, stacked into walls that rise as if gravity itself had been challenged by Bronze Age hands. Stretching along the ancient citadel, the walls curve and ascend with a weighty dignity, their surfaces bearing the scars of time yet preserving the memory of human ingenuity that seems almost impossible for a civilization existing around 1400 BCE. Scholars have long marvelled at the audacity of these constructions, noting that no single modern technique fully explains how Bronze Age labourers could have organised, moved, and positioned such colossal stones with remarkable precision. The walls themselves radiate a quiet power, their scale a constant reminder that human ambition can rival nature's own majesty. Ancient builders devised techniques to maneuver these enormous blocks, yet no definitive evidence explains exactly how manpower, simple tools and ingenuity combine to achieve such precision. Some researchers suggest the use of wooden levers, ramps and sleds lubricated with water or clay, but the logistics of moving stones weighing more than 20 tons remain deeply puzzling. Modern simulations can replicate aspects of the work only partially, yet each method leaves lingering questions about the organisation of labour and coordination across such immense tasks. The possibility that Tiran's builders relied on knowledge or methods now lost to history adds an extra layer of mystery, one that continues to challenge archaeologists and engineers alike. Irregular stone shapes fit together with remarkable accuracy, forming seams so tight that mortar was unnecessary, and the walls have endured millennia with only minimal collapse. Many of the stones are massive polygonal blocks, each carefully positioned to interlock with its neighbours, creating a structure capable of resisting both time and seismic activity. The way these stones are angled and aligned suggests a sophisticated understanding of structural dynamics, yet the methods used to achieve this precision remain unknown. Even today, engineers and masons studying the walls often pause in disbelief at the precision, as the shapes do not conform to simple geometric patterns and show evidence of deliberate, painstaking craftsmanship. Strategic placement of gates and bastions suggests a calculated defensive vision, hinting that the architects understood both human behaviour and the terrain in extraordinary detail. Entrances are carefully constrained, funneling potential attackers into narrow passages that maximise defensive advantage. The thickness of the walls and the height of ramparts indicate knowledge of siege strategies, while some stone blocks were positioned to form platforms for observation and defence. It becomes clear that the builders were not only concerned with the physical challenge of construction, but also with creating a fortress capable of withstanding threats, both imagined and real. The citadel's layout, when considered as a whole, reflects a deliberate and intelligent approach to defence, unlike any seen elsewhere in the region. Excavations in the late 19th and 20th centuries revealed the complexity of the citadel, leaving archaeologists astonished at the sheer ambition and organisational skill of its builders. Early digs uncovered chambers, terraces and gateways that hinted at a community capable of coordinating large-scale labour across generations. Artefacts, including pottery fragments and tools, offer glimpses into the daily life of those who live behind the walls, yet the primary marvel remains the stones themselves. Each excavation deepened the enigma, raising as many questions as it answered, particularly regarding how a society without iron tools or wheeled vehicles managed such extraordinary feats. Greek myths speak of labyrinths and Herculean feats in these same citadels, blending legend with reality and leaving historians to ponder how imagination and architecture intersected. Tales of Heracles, who performed labours in these regions, may have been inspired by the awe-inspiring structures he encountered. Ancient chroniclers describe monumental walls and fortresses that seemed impenetrable, feeding the imagination of poets and later scholars. While myth cannot serve as evidence of construction techniques, it demonstrates the cultural impact of Tiran's architecture, showing how human perception of scale and power has long intertwined with storytelling and the symbolic weight of stone. Across the Peloponnesus, other fortifications reveal echoes of similar construction, yet Tiran's walls display an audacity in scale and stone fitting that sets them apart from all known contemporaries. Sites such as Mycenae share aspects of Cyclopean masonry, yet Tiran's exhibits an unusual combination of irregular polygonal blocks and sweeping curves. The overall continuity and integration of the walls into the natural topography are exceptional, reflecting planning and vision that surpass regional norms. Scholars note that even minor deviations in stone placement could have destabilized the walls, emphasizing the skill required to construct a fortress where both form and function are seamlessly intertwined. Weathering, earthquakes, and centuries of human activity obscure portions of the walls, making it difficult to reconstruct their original form or the techniques that created them. Some sections have collapsed, leaving enormous voids that hint at the weight and scale of missing stones. Others show erosion patterns that suggest subtle engineering to shed water and resist seismic shifts, evidence that the builders anticipated the long-term forces acting upon their construction. Preservation challenges continue to impede full analysis, and in many places modern interventions have altered the original stone placement, leaving researchers to piece together fragments of an incomplete story. Questions about labour organisation, alignment, and transport persist as modern engineering struggles to replicate the precision achieved without advanced machinery. Estimates suggest that thousands of workers would have been required over many years, yet no records exist detailing the social or logistical structures that facilitated such efforts. How they aligned blocks to follow the citadel's curves with such fidelity is equally perplexing. Even contemporary engineers, with cranes and lifting machinery, find it daunting to replicate the scale of Tiryns with the same speed and cohesion implied by archaeological evidence. The human ingenuity evident in this ancient construction continues to challenge assumptions about the limits of Bronze Age societies. The interplay of scale, durability, and precision leaves the site perpetually puzzling, offering evidence of extraordinary skill yet no clear explanation of the methods employed. Scholars continue to debate whether the achievement was incremental, spanning multiple generations, or whether an advanced understanding of stone mechanics and organisation enabled rapid completion. Regardless of the timeline, the Cyclopean walls project an enduring aura of mastery, silently challenging every attempt to reconcile human ambition with the technology available at the time. Each block carries with it a story of labour, knowledge, and mystery, forming a fortress that refuses to yield its secrets. Time has preserved their colossal presence, but the Cyclopean walls of Tiryns continue to guard secrets that refuse every attempt at understanding. The cave temples of Barabar Hills. Hewn directly into the granite of Bihar, the Barabar caves reveal a level of precision that has puzzled engineers and historians for centuries. Entering the largest halls, one is immediately struck by the smoothness of the stone, its mirror-like surfaces reflecting even the faintest light. Unlike many ancient structures, these caves display no superficial ornamentation. Their beauty lies in the sheer perfection of their execution. Scholars have long noted that achieving such uniform polish on granite, a notoriously hard material, would have required techniques far beyond what is documented for the Mauryan period. The question lingers: how could artisans accomplish such refinement with the tools available over 2 millennia ago? The surfaces gleam with a reflective polish, executed with such uniformity across enormous walls that the techniques used remain unknown. Every plane meets another with an almost impossible precision, the corners sharp yet slightly softened in a way that suggests careful planning. Ancient manuals or descriptions of such methods do not exist, leaving only the tangible results for modern observers to study. Some researchers have speculated that abrasives unknown to history may have been used, yet no traces of such materials have been found at the site. This craftsmanship conveys a sophistication that seems incongruous with other constructions of the same era. Voices within the largest halls resonate with an uncanny clarity, suggesting the builders possessed a deep understanding of sound and echo. Even a whispered word can carry across the chamber, bouncing and lingering in a manner that seems deliberate. Archaeologists and engineers have measured these acoustics extensively, trying to determine if the effect was accidental or intentional. The results imply that whoever designed these spaces understood how sound behaves in enclosed stone volumes, an insight that remains remarkable even by contemporary standards. The cave's resonance adds an invisible layer of complexity to their already mysterious presence. Dating to the Mauryan period, the caves exemplify architectural mastery that challenges assumptions about early Indian engineering capabilities. The Mauryan Empire, known primarily for its political and administrative organisation, also produced feats of construction that continue to astonish modern scholars. The precision of the Barabar halls stands apart from other contemporaneous sites, suggesting that either lost techniques were employed or that the scope of ancient knowledge is still underestimated. In this light, the caves are not only sacred spaces but silent witnesses to a civilization's hidden technical ingenuity. Associated with the Ajivika sect, these chambers likely served ritual purposes, though the absence of inscriptions obscures their full ceremonial meaning. The Ajivikas, a sect contemporaneous with early Buddhism and Jainism, left little written record, which only heightens the mystery surrounding the caves. Without iconography or texts, it is difficult to know what practices occurred within these polished walls. Yet the careful orientation, acoustical properties, and spatial hierarchy of the chambers indicate a spiritual or meditative function designed to focus attention and possibly enhance auditory or visual experiences during rituals. Specialists are still unsure how artisans achieved the flawless angles and polished walls, as no evidence of appropriate tools or methods has survived. Modern attempts to replicate the surfaces using known Bronze or Iron Age techniques have consistently fallen short, producing rougher finishes or irregular planes. The size of the chambers and the granite's density imply significant planning and an enormous labour effort, yet the historical record provides no clues about how the workforce was organised. Some theories suggest the use of water, sand and repeated abrasion over long periods, but the uniformity and speed implied by the scale remain inexplicable. Unlike other rock-cut monuments, the Barabar caves feature stark simplicity and expansive interiors, emphasising minimalism and precision over decoration. There are no carved reliefs, no painted murals, no decorative friezes. The elegance of the spaces lies entirely in the geometric clarity and the quality of the stonework. This restraint gives the chambers a surreal atmosphere, where the architecture itself becomes the medium of awe. The effect is at once functional, spiritual and enigmatic, leaving observers to wonder whether the minimalist approach was a deliberate philosophical choice or a practical necessity. Even after centuries of exposure to rain and temperature changes, the granite surfaces have endured with remarkable smoothness and clarity. Natural erosion and weathering have left almost no trace on the polished walls, hinting at either an exceptional choice of stone or the application of treatments now forgotten. The durability of the caves raises further questions about the knowledge and priorities of the builders, who seemed as concerned with permanence as with form. Their survival through time suggests a combination of technical skill, environmental awareness, and an eye for geometry that remains difficult to explain. The scale and arrangement of the chambers indicate meticulous planning, suggesting sophisticated knowledge of geometry and logistics among the workforce. Hallways are proportioned to exacting standards, and even the minor changes in ceiling height or floor slope feel intentional rather than incidental. Moving from one chamber to another reveals a rhythm and spatial harmony that some scholars compare to architectural symphonies, where form and function are inseparably intertwined. Coordinating such an undertaking would have required not only skilled labour, but a comprehensive understanding of measurements, weight distribution, and sequencing that defies conventional assumptions about the period. Questions linger about the true methods, timing, and intent behind these structures, leaving their construction a continuing puzzle for researchers. Excavations and surveys reveal few clues beyond the caves themselves, and no contemporary records describe the process or its rationale. Each attempt to rationalise their creation raises new questions. Were they a product of ritual inspiration, technical genius, or a combination of both? The more experts study them, the more these chambers seem to challenge the very notion of what was possible in early human construction. The Barabar caves endure as a testament to forgotten skill, their flawless granite surfaces guarding secrets that time itself has been unable to erode. The stone towers of Great Zimbabwe. Centuries-old sequences of interlocking granite suggest a level of coordination and craftsmanship that continues to baffle historians. The walls, built without mortar, rise in complex patterns across undulating hills, each stone perfectly fitted to its neighbours. The precision required to quarry, shape, and position blocks that sometimes weigh several tons remains astonishing. No contemporary tools or techniques are fully adequate to explain the construction, leaving modern researchers to speculate. The sheer ambition of the site, combined with its endurance over centuries, hints at a society that possessed extraordinary knowledge of materials, geometry and spatial planning, yet left no detailed record of its methods. Traders, travellers, and local storytellers all hint at a thriving civilization, yet the mechanics behind its monumental constructions remain elusive. Archaeological evidence indicates a society engaged in long-distance trade, acquiring beads from India and pottery from East Africa, suggesting wealth and sophistication. Written accounts from early European visitors describe awe at the scale and workmanship of the enclosures, though they could not comprehend the techniques involved. These testimonies, when paired with oral histories, reinforce the notion of a civilization whose architectural skill far exceeded expectations for the era. Yet, despite these clues, the precise means of construction remains an enduring mystery. Precision in the placement of each block defies assumptions about medieval tools and conventional labour methods. Stones are carefully shaped to interlock with one another, creating walls that have withstood centuries of weathering and seismic activity. There is no evidence of mortar, yet the walls remain structurally sound, their stability enhanced by subtle inclines and weight distribution. The exact techniques used to move and fit these enormous stones are unknown, sparking debates about whether rollers, sleds, or other mechanical methods were employed. Even modern engineers marvel at the ingenuity required to maintain alignment and balance without advanced equipment. The complex's layout reflects deliberate planning, with paths and enclosures hinting at social organisation and purpose. Residential areas, ceremonial spaces, and defensive compounds suggest a hierarchical society with clearly defined roles and responsibilities. The largest enclosure, known as the Great Enclosure, displays curved walls that defy simple functional logic, implying symbolic or ritual significance. Openings and corridors appear positioned for both utility and aesthetic effect, while internal courtyards suggest communal gatherings or market activity. Together, the arrangement hints at a civilization capable of sophisticated urban planning, integrating practicality, ritual, and visual harmony in ways still not fully understood. Debates persist over whether these spaces served political, ceremonial, or defensive roles, none offering a fully convincing answer. Some scholars suggest the enclosures housed royal or elite leadership, while others propose they were fortifications against rival communities. The lack of uniformity in wall thickness, height, and curvature complicates interpretations. Certain areas are more accessible than others, suggesting selective use or ritualized movement. Excavations have revealed few definitive indicators of warfare or ceremonial activity, leaving researchers to speculate. The ambiguity reinforces the sense of mystery, as the structure's intent seems deliberately enigmatic, resisting simple categorization even after decades of study. Objects scattered throughout the site, including imported beads, pottery, and gold fragments, reveal a network of extensive trade connections. Evidence indicates that Great Zimbabwe was not isolated. It participated in regional and transoceanic commerce. Cowrie shells from the Indian Ocean and ornamental beads demonstrate both wealth and connections to distant cultures. These artifacts suggest the city was a hub of cultural exchange, influencing and absorbing ideas from afar. Yet while the objects hint at daily life, economy, and aesthetics, they do little to explain the monumental architecture. The grandeur of the walls remains an outlier, unmatched by the material culture discovered around them. The logistics required to quarry, transport, and fit enormous granite pieces point to an extraordinary understanding of engineering and coordination. Stones sourced from nearby hills were shaped and positioned with remarkable skill, requiring organised labour, planning, and tools that leave little evidence. Scholars calculate that moving some of the largest blocks would demand hundreds of workers, yet no records describe how such feats were accomplished. The absence of ramps, cranes, or other definitive implements leads to speculation about unknown techniques or lost knowledge. Each layer of stone demonstrates careful sequencing, suggesting the builders understood principles of weight distribution, friction, and stability in ways that remain impressive even today. Subtle variations in angles and spacing may have conveyed cultural or spiritual messages, now obscured by time. The curvature of walls and occasional alcoves may have aligned with solar events, ritual pathways, or symbolic thresholds. Certain enclosures are oriented to maximize sunlight or frame distant hills, hinting at deliberate aesthetic choices or cosmological significance. These small details, easy to overlook, reinforce the impression that the architecture was not merely functional but also infused with meaning. Modern analysis struggles to decipher these patterns, as the original context and belief systems that guided their design have largely vanished. Archaeologists continue to uncover new aspects of the site, yet the full scope of its construction techniques remains shrouded. Advanced surveying and remote sensing have revealed subsurface features, terracing, and foundations indicating that the visible walls were part of a far more extensive urban plan. Excavations continue to yield artifacts that add nuance to our understanding of trade, diet, and daily life. But the overarching question of how the granite enclosures were built persists. Even sophisticated modelling cannot fully account for the precision, coordination, and effort required, leaving Great Zimbabwe as one of the world's enduring architectural enigmas. Observers are struck by the harmony and precision of the arrangement, evoking questions about the society that created it. The symmetry, curves, and scale reflect deliberate intent, a vision that communicated power, organization, and cultural identity. Travelers and scholars alike find themselves awed not just by size, but by the coherence and rhythm of the layout. Each structure interacts with its surroundings in ways that suggest awareness of terrain, visibility, and social dynamics. Despite centuries of examination, the combination of monumental ambition, technical mastery, and aesthetic sophistication continues to challenge contemporary understanding. The legacy etched into every joint and curve endures as a puzzle no scholar has yet unravelled. The spiral city of Chankilo. Encircling the barren hills, the towers of Chankilo form a sequence that puzzles archaeologists with its precise spiral alignment. Located in the Casma Valley of northern Peru, the site is dominated by 13 stone towers stretched along a low ridge, forming a line that interacts with the sun in ways that suggest deliberate astronomical observation. While the surrounding landscape is stark and arid, the spiral plan of the complex immediately conveys a sense of purpose, as though the builders intended to impose order on the natural chaos of the terrain. Visitors today can still trace the winding pathways that interconnect the towers, imagining the figures who once navigated them under the sun's movements. Evidence suggests that the builders timed rituals with subtle solar shifts, yet the exact methods for observation remain unexplained. Archaeologists have documented that the towers align precisely with sunrise and sunset on the solstices, implying that those who constructed them possessed detailed knowledge of the solar cycle. Yet how these early Andean societies measured time and calculated angles without advanced instruments is unclear. The precision of the alignment is remarkable. From certain vantage points, sunlight falls between towers only on specific days, creating patterns that could mark agricultural seasons, religious observances, or both. The purpose behind these solar markers continues to invite speculation. Narrow terraces and inclined platforms wind around the site, guiding movement in ways that hint at ceremonial processions now lost to history. The spiral configuration is not merely decorative. The pathways suggest controlled access to the towers, possibly regulating who could approach the sacred spaces and when. Each step along the terraces may have been accompanied by ritual observances, though no inscriptions survive to clarify the intentions. Scholars hypothesize that the spiral itself served as a physical and symbolic journey, connecting celestial observation to human action, but the absence of textual evidence leaves the interpretation largely conjectural. Excavations reveal traces of hearths, fragments of pottery, and stone implements suggesting everyday activity intertwined with the city's enigmatic purpose. These domestic remnants indicate that Chankilo was not exclusively a ceremonial site. Some areas likely supported residential or preparatory functions for ritual participants. The pottery fragments, often finely crafted, point to a community capable of both utilitarian and artistic production. Meanwhile, stone tools, including grinding implements and blades, suggest that subsistence activities occurred alongside the astronomical functions, blending the practical and the sacred within the same physical space. The pattern of construction raises questions about whether the complex was a calendar, a temple, or an elaborate social centre, or all three simultaneously. While the 13 towers' alignment with solar events is undeniable, the overall spiral arrangement of walls, platforms, and terraces hints at additional layers of meaning. Some researchers propose that Chankilo functioned as a sophisticated timekeeping system, while others emphasize its role as a ceremonial hub for the surrounding population. The overlapping purposes may never be fully understood, but the integration of astronomy, architecture, and social organization demonstrates an advanced conceptual framework. Tower foundations demonstrate careful leveling and orientation, implying knowledge of geometry and surveying techniques far ahead of their time. The builders carved stones to fit together with minimal gaps, and the tower's placement along the ridge required precise measurements to maintain uniform spacing. These methods suggest that the inhabitants possessed not only observational skill, but also an understanding of geometric principles possibly transmitted through generations of apprentices or through a codified tradition. The exact techniques remain unknown, as no tools or written instructions have survived. Regional connections point to shared cultural practices across the Andes, yet no other site mirrors Chanquilo's spiral precision. Similarities with nearby ceremonial centres indicate that astronomical observation and ritual were widespread, but the scale and design of Chanquilo are exceptional. Its linear and spiral elements are unmatched in contemporaneous settlements, underscoring a unique vision that combined cosmic awareness with architectural mastery. The isolation of the site also raises questions about how knowledge of solar cycles was preserved and transmitted in a pre-literate society. Researchers using modern tools confirm that sunlight and shadow interact with the towers throughout the year, though the full symbolic meaning remains hidden. Surveys employing GPS mapping, 3D modelling, and solar simulations reveal that the towers cast shadows and direct light in precise sequences at different times of the year. These phenomena suggest intentional observation, possibly for calendrical, ceremonial, or even political purposes. Yet the symbolic significance of these interactions is lost. Without records, modern scholars can only reconstruct plausible scenarios based on alignments and ethnographic parallels. When compared to other ancient observatories, Chanquilo's arrangement defies conventional categorization, resisting explanations based purely on astronomy or architecture. Unlike circular stone circles or simple alignments seen elsewhere, Chanquilo's spiral and linear forms interact with the topography and the sun in a way that combines multiple functional, ritual, and observational dimensions. The integration of residential, ceremonial, and astronomical features challenges conventional definitions of temple or observatory, illustrating a sophistication that places Chanquilo among the most enigmatic constructions of the ancient world. Each discovery deepens intrigue, revealing fragments of knowledge that only underscore the overarching mystery surrounding the site's purpose. Every excavation season uncovers subtle insights, new terraces, carefully shaped stones, and minor alignments with other landscape features, but none provide definitive answers. The combination of deliberate planning, astronomical knowledge, and architectural execution suggests a culture with a deep understanding of both the earth and sky, yet the full story remains just out of reach, suspended between what can be measured and what must be imagined. The spiral's silent alignment continues to whisper its mysteries, resisting every attempt to decode its ancient intent. The rock-cut churches of Lalibela. A series of majestic interiors emerges directly from volcanic rock, as if the stone itself were transformed into sacred halls by unseen hands. Located in northern Ethiopia, these monolithic churches appear carved rather than built, each structure descending from the earth. The scale defies explanation, with halls extending over 30 meters deep, and the precision and symmetry remain astonishing. Every doorway, column, and niche is intentional, yet the tools behind their creation are unknown. Scholars suggest these edifices served as both worship spaces and enduring symbols of architectural vision. The surrounding plateau provided material but posed challenges for excavation and drainage. Each church is part of a cohesive plan, hinting at ritual or celestial purpose. The audacity of carving stone on this scale, without mortar or external supports, evokes awe today. Columns, doorways, and arches reflect geometric knowledge that surpasses conventional assumptions about medieval craftsmanship. Measurements reveal remarkable uniformity, and the walls are virtually perpendicular despite irregular rock. Some experts propose that simple tools and extraordinary skill could suffice, yet repeated patterns across multiple churches imply systematic design. From above, the churches form distinct alignments, as if drawn on a map before excavation. Doorways mirror one another in height and width, reinforcing deliberate proportion. The interiors of Bet Medhan Alem exemplify this precision, challenging assumptions about available technology. Every axis is intentional, but the reasoning behind these dimensions remains speculative. Some alignments correspond with celestial movements, suggesting geometry and astronomy informed sacred design. Channels and trenches intertwine with natural contours, revealing a vision attuned to the landscape. Rainwater was carefully managed with slight inclines and stone-lined drains to protect interiors. Valleys and ridges guided building placement, creating vistas and pathways that controlled movement. Passages sometimes carved through corridors or staircases, integrating function with form. Certain slopes and steps may have been designed for ritual procession. The architects appear to have accounted for seasonal light and shadow, utilising natural irregularities to support altars and decorative elements. The union of landscape and excavation remains largely incomprehensible. Many walls suggest ceremonial intent, with enclosed chambers opening onto expansive halls. Altars and niches correspond to symbolic locations, while Betegi Yorgis exemplifies the convergence of geometry and spirituality. Processional corridors may have guided worshippers through narrative sequences. The interplay of height, depth, and light likely heightened reverence, and frescoes hint at iconography aligned with sacred stories. Entrances often face cardinal directions, reinforcing symbolic significance, though the reasoning behind chamber placement is speculative. The alignment of sacred and functional spaces reflects a society blending devotion with technical skill. Scholars puzzle over tools and methods for removing massive volumes of rock while leaving intricate details intact. Iron chisels and hammers provide one explanation, yet the scale and smoothness surpass expectations. Comparisons with contemporary construction reveal a level of refinement that seems improbable. Modern attempts to replicate these processes highlight the extraordinary patience and coordination required. The precision in corners, columns, and relief suggests minimal deviation across structures separated by hundreds of meters. How labour was organised over decades remains unclear, but the results continue to challenge engineers today. Certain churches align with the sun and stars, indicating deliberate celestial synchronization. Solstice alignments illuminate inner sanctums at precise times, hinting at integration of astronomy into planning. Openings, corridors, and courtyards correspond to solar or stellar movements, possibly marking agricultural or ceremonial seasons. The precision, combined with scale, reflects an intersection of art, science, and devotion. Observational skill and long-term planning were essential despite limited historical records. Celestial and terrestrial order seems central to the design of sacred space. Hidden corridors and subsidiary chambers create labyrinths whose purpose may extend beyond function. Some passages appear disorienting, with dead ends and spirals that challenge navigation. These features could guide initiates or clergy through stages of understanding. Cryptic niches suggest meditation, storage, or ceremonial preparation. The interplay of light and shadow within these corridors enhances contemplation. The labyrinthine network remains only partially understood, prompting speculation about symbolic meaning. Decorative elements and imported materials hint at connections to distant regions. Beads, pigments, and metal fragments indicate trade across the Red Sea. Byzantine, Coptic, and Arabian influences appear in motifs and architectural details. This implies the builders participated in broader cultural networks. Materials would have required careful transport and integration, emphasizing sophistication. Trade may have been essential to artistic expression or ritual. How knowledge, tools, and ideas traversed long distances remains unclear. Construction timelines remain tentative, revealing a society capable of monumental planning despite scarce records. Radiocarbon dating offers partial insight, while oral histories credit King Lalibela. The scale implies decades of labour, with thousands of tons of rock removed precisely. Organisation, tool sourcing, and logistics suggest advanced project management. Phases may have overlapped, with some churches carved while others were still preliminary. Sustained effort across decades reflects social cohesion and enduring vision. Absence of detailed records leaves scholars inferring timelines from indirect evidence. Despite centuries of erosion and human activity, the churches endure as functional spaces and centres of devotion. Pilgrims and clergy maintain rituals unchanged for centuries. Preservation has focused on stabilisation while retaining authenticity. Visitors witness the harmony of architecture, landscape, and spiritual experience. Stone floors remain level, carved reliefs retain detail, and passages continue to channel light as intended. The living nature of the churches underscores practical and symbolic achievement. Even with modern technology, replicating such works would be formidable. Light streams through carved apertures, revealing forms and shadows that hold secrets only the original architects could have comprehended. The cart ruts of Malta. The rocky plains of Malta are etched with parallel grooves that seem to defy simple explanation. Deep ruts carved into the limestone bedrock that stretch across valleys and plunge into the shallow Mediterranean Sea. Archaeologists have debated their purpose for centuries, with some proposing they were tracks for wheeled carts, while others suggest ritualistic or symbolic functions now lost to time. What makes them especially enigmatic is their consistency and alignment, with many of the ruts running straight over hills and dipping into water where wheels could not have passed. These lines, worn into stone that has endured millennia, silently testify to a method or knowledge that we cannot fully grasp. Visitors often notice the precision of these channels, their width nearly uniform, yet without evidence of the wooden wheels that supposedly travelled them. The grooves vary in depth, from a few inches to more than a foot, as if the craters were unconcerned with the natural slope of the land. Some tracks intersect at almost right angles, creating a network of enigmatic pathways that offer no clear destination. Excavations in the surrounding area have uncovered flint tools and remnants of settlements, yet nothing conclusively links the ruts to the known Neolithic culture of the island. The more one examines the tracks, the more their origins slip away from conventional explanation. Geologists have analysed the limestone, noting that it is a soft sedimentary rock easily shaped over time by natural erosion, yet the grooves do not resemble water or wind erosion. Their edges are sharp and defined, and the parallel lines remain consistent for hundreds of metres, often cutting directly through small hills rather than detouring around them. Some researchers suggest that repeated passage of heavy loads may have created the impressions, but no wheels or axles dating to the purported Neolithic period have been discovered on Malta. The ruts, therefore, exist in isolation from the evidence that should accompany practical transportation. Aerial photography has revealed sections of the ruts that vanish into the sea, challenging any theory of mundane cart use. Scholars and tourists alike have peered at these submerged endings, noting how the tracks continue underwater, sometimes for dozens of meters before disappearing entirely into the sandy seabed. Such features have fueled speculation that the ruts were once part of a larger network, perhaps aligned with now submerged coastlines, or that the water was an intentional destination, a ceremonial or maritime purpose lost in the millennia since their creation. The sea, calm or turbulent, holds part of the secret, yet offers no answers. Local traditions and folklore have occasionally tried to explain the grooves, recounting tales of giants, spirits, or divine intervention, yet these stories offer poetic speculation rather than empirical evidence. Scholars acknowledge these narratives not for their truth, but for the cultural insight they provide into how humans have perceived and preserved the mystery of the ruts over thousands of years. Even modern Maltese surveys continue to discover previously undocumented tracks, hidden in scrubland or eroded gullies, hinting at a far more extensive network than previously imagined. The sheer scale of the ruts remains as confounding as their purpose. Some researchers have compared the Maltese tracks with other European and Mediterranean cart ruts, noting superficial similarities in width and spacing, yet the Maltese examples are often deeper, longer, and more intricately aligned. Unlike other ancient trackways, they are not confined to paths between settlements or known quarries. They traverse valleys, cliffs, and ridges indiscriminately, as if following a plan invisible to the modern eye. The thought that an ancient people could have engineered such a network without leaving a single wheel or axle behind challenges conventional assumptions about technological development in Neolithic Europe. Theories of ritualistic or ceremonial use gain traction when the ruts are observed alongside megalithic temples scattered across Malta, such as Hagar Chim and Monajdra. These temples, themselves ancient and architecturally sophisticated, share a mysterious temporal overlap with the presumed age of the ruts, yet no direct physical connection has been established. Some suggest that the tracks may have guided processions or aligned with celestial events, though definitive archaeological proof remains elusive. The possibility of a symbolic or astronomical function adds a layer of intrigue that reinforces the notion of intentional design beyond practical necessity. Detailed mapping has shown that in some areas, ruts converge at nodes or junctions, forming complex geometric patterns on the landscape. These intersections often coincide with natural depressions or elevated viewpoints, hinting that the craters may have been attentive to visual or spatial relationships across terrain. Yet, without written records, inscriptions, or tools specifically associated with construction, the reason for such precision remains speculative. Every attempt to measure or predict their purpose encounters the stubborn silence of stone, leaving observers to weigh probabilities against centuries of unanswered questions. Technological studies have attempted to replicate the ruts using experimental archaeology, testing wheeled sledges and manually pushed carts on limestone surfaces, but the results fail to match the depth, length, or uniformity of the original tracks. Even when modern tools attempt to mimic Neolithic capabilities, the evidence resists replication, suggesting either a lost technique or an entirely different purpose unrelated to transportation. The physical record speaks in a language that no modern experiment has yet fully decoded, reinforcing the aura of mystery that surrounds them. Despite centuries of scrutiny, the cart ruts of Malta remain a landscape frozen between practicality and enigma. Scholars continue to document, measure, and theorize, yet every answer generates more questions about the people who carved these channels, their intentions, and the knowledge they possessed. The ruts endure not as relics of a known civilization, but as enduring puzzles, etched into rock in ways that defy simple explanation. They invite contemplation, study, and speculation, while guarding their origin with an almost deliberate silence. The ruts stretch endlessly across limestone plains, vanishing into the sea, as though the ancient world itself is quietly daring us to understand its intentions. The polygonal walls of Alatri. Sunlight glances off massive polygonal blocks in Alatri, highlighting the unnatural precision with which they interlock and hinting at a skill no longer understood. The stones vary in size, some weighing several tons, yet every block fits snugly against its neighbours without mortar, creating walls that seem almost alive in their geometric harmony. Observers often pause to trace the joints with a hand, finding no seam wide enough to admit a blade. The sheer scale of the masonry commands attention, and the mind immediately questions how a society predating Roman engineering could achieve such accuracy without written records or mechanized tools. Centuries of human occupation have left few documents describing the wall's creation, yet the stones themselves suggest careful planning and deliberate placement. Archaeologists date the main structures to pre-Roman times, likely between the 7th and 4th centuries BCE, though no inscriptions link the masonry to a particular culture or leader. The surrounding settlement patterns hint at an organised urban layout, but the wall's design surpasses what contemporary societies elsewhere in Italy achieved. Standing before them, it is impossible not to sense that these walls were intended to endure, as if the builders anticipated a future they could not witness. Each block's irregular shape seems calculated, with angles that form perfect joints in a way that defies conventional measurement. The polygons are not uniform but are arranged so precisely that the walls appear seamless, even when examined closely. Modern engineers attempting to replicate the technique struggle to align irregular blocks with such tight tolerances. Small variations in height and thickness create a subtle rhythm, guiding the eye across the walls while maintaining structural integrity. The more one studies the angles, the more it becomes clear that these stones were set with both mathematical knowledge and practical experience lost to history. Scholars comparing Alatri to other polygonal constructions across Italy and beyond note that no other example matches its scale or precision. Similar walls in Norcia, Segni, and parts of South America provide intriguing parallels, yet the methods employed differ, and none achieve the same seamless interlocking. Engineers remain puzzled by how such massive stones were cut and manoeuvred, often uphill or over uneven terrain, with a precision that still challenges modern replication. The phenomenon suggests either a lost technique or an understanding of geometry and construction far beyond what is documented for that period. Strategic placement along ridges and terraces indicates that the walls may have served multiple purposes, from fortification to ceremonial or symbolic functions, though evidence is inconclusive. Their alignment follows the contours of the land, protecting key approaches while dominating the visual landscape. Observers have noted that some sections correspond to sightlines over surrounding valleys, suggesting planning for observation or signalling. Despite these insights, the absence of inscriptions or contemporary accounts means that speculation about purpose remains tantalizing but unverifiable, leaving the wall's ultimate function suspended between defense, art, and ritual. Geological studies reveal the limestone blocks to be both dense and brittle, raising questions about quarrying, transport, and placement. Evidence of tool marks indicates labor-intensive shaping, yet no trace of the exact cutting or lifting methods survives. Some blocks weigh upwards of several tons, and moving them without modern machinery would have required immense coordination and ingenuity. Observers often marvel that the walls have endured centuries of exposure, seismic activity and human alteration, remaining structurally sound. Each stone thus becomes both a monument to ancient skill and a silent witness to methods that no modern experiment has fully reproduced. The wall's joints exhibit subtle interlocking features that have preserved stability over centuries, allowing the structures to withstand earthquakes that have toppled less carefully constructed masonry. The polygon's irregularity is paradoxically part of what gives the walls their extraordinary resilience, distributing weight and stress in a manner modern engineers can appreciate but cannot entirely replicate. In some areas, the interlocking system appears almost organic, as if the stones were selected and fitted to create a form of balance that is equal parts practical and aesthetic. Such craftsmanship underscores a level of sophistication rarely credited to pre-Roman societies. Advanced surveys and laser mapping have catalogued every angle, yet no reconstruction has succeeded in replicating the wall's exact precision. Attempts using contemporary techniques and even modern machinery fail to achieve the tight joints and consistent alignment seen at Alatri. Researchers note that slight deviations in angles would compromise stability, suggesting that the builders had a meticulous understanding of geometry. The absence of corroborating documents leaves open the question of whether this knowledge was widespread, esoteric, or the result of isolated genius. Every measurement underscores the tension between observable skill and unknown methodology. Visitors navigating narrow alleyways along the walls often sense an intentional order behind the seemingly chaotic arrangement of polygons. Some stones appear almost random in shape, yet their placement follows a logic invisible to casual observation. The interplay of size, angle, and alignment conveys both strength and elegance, inviting contemplation of the people who planned and executed such work. Even centuries of human activity around the site have failed to erode this effect, preserving a silent dialogue between the builders and anyone who studies the walls carefully enough to notice the subtleties. Even as the town around them has grown and changed, the walls persist in perfect alignment, a silent record of skill and intent that defies explanation. Scholars continue to debate the methods used, the knowledge possessed, and the purpose behind the walls, yet each answer leads only to more questions. They remain as much a puzzle of human ingenuity as a monument to endurance, challenging observers to reconcile the precision of the construction with the absence of historical records. The walls, in their unwavering form, resist easy understanding and continue to inspire awe. Their geometric perfection seems designed to outlast memory itself, leaving anyone who studies them with questions that echo across centuries. The subterranean city of Derinkuyu. The cool, damp air of Derinkuyu envelopes anyone who steps inside, immediately revealing the scope of a subterranean world carved deep into Cappadocia's volcanic rock. Shadows stretch along the low ceilings and winding corridors, revealing chambers of varying heights, some scarcely tall enough to stand upright, others opening into surprisingly spacious halls. Light flickers against stone walls, catching the rough surfaces and uneven edges, hinting at the immense labour required to shape this underground maze. The very air carries a sense of history and secrecy, as though each level preserves a memory of countless lives lived far from the sun, in silence and isolation. Archaeological records trace hints of early habitation, yet no source fully accounts for the intricate layout of this multi-level underground city. Scholars estimate that Derinkuyu could descend over 60 metres below the surface, with up to 18 interconnected floors, though only a fraction has been fully explored. Early travellers and local historians reported parts of the tunnels before formal excavations, but their accounts were limited by darkness and the risk of collapse. Even the sections we can access today reveal a complexity that far exceeds simple shelter, suggesting intentions and knowledge that are no longer comprehensible. Winding corridors branch unpredictably into chambers of varied sizes, from stables and kitchens to living quarters, forming a network that seems designed to confound any outsider. Narrow hallways sometimes open into sudden high-ceilinged halls where stone niches line the walls and traces of daily life remain. Some passages intersect at unusual angles, creating dead ends or labyrinthine loops, while others connect seamlessly to previously unknown rooms. The layout seems intentional, as if designed both for functionality and secrecy. Observing it, one cannot help but sense the careful thought that went into a design that confounds every conventional expectation of subterranean construction. Ventilation shafts pierce the ceilings at regular intervals, a silent system that channels air hundreds of feet below, demonstrating engineering foresight that remains inexplicable today. Even the deepest levels, where the temperature drops and darkness thickens, are supplied with breathable air, allowing extended occupancy. The shafts vary in size and angle, yet all converge towards central points, creating circulation that modern studies confirm is both effective and sustainable. Such planning suggests that whoever built the city anticipated long-term habitation, yet no inscriptions or tools definitively indicate how they mastered this complex system centuries ago. Massive stone doors, often suspended within narrow hallways, hint at defensive strategy, suggesting the builders anticipated intruders, yet left no written account of why. These rolling doors are circular and grooved to rotate snugly within slots carved into the walls, some weighing hundreds of kilograms. Certain passageways were designed to funnel potential attackers into confined spaces where small groups could defend effectively. While the mechanics of the doors are observable, their placement and strategic intent remain speculative, leaving the overall defensive system a silent testament to planning that exceeds what is known about the era's military tactics. Each carved staircase and passage reveals a mastery of tough stone, yet archaeologists have found minimal evidence of the tools or methods used to shape such durable underground spaces. The stairs twist and incline with surprising regularity, some connecting levels separated by several meters, while others spiral to accommodate narrow shafts. Marks on the walls suggest chisels or picks, but no complete tool sets have been preserved. Considering the volume of stone moved, the coordination and skill required to create a livable underground city without modern machinery is staggering, emphasizing a level of ingenuity that remains largely mysterious. Signs of prolonged occupation appear in storage niches, hearths, and small chapels, yet the city's original purpose, whether refuge, religious site, or both, remains an open question. Remnants of pottery, oil lamps, and ventilation-linked hearths suggest domestic use, while spaces with raised platforms or niches hint at communal or ceremonial functions. The combination of living quarters, defensive corridors, and hidden escape routes points to a community prepared for extended periods underground. Yet no written records confirm who initially planned or occupied the city, leaving every inference weighed against the stark absence of direct evidence. Modern exploration has uncovered hidden wells and secret chambers that even early visitors missed, underscoring the labyrinthine complexity that challenges mapping and understanding. Some passageways terminate in unexpectedly large halls or narrow, twisting tunnels that seem to serve no obvious purpose. Sensors and laser scans have revealed vertical shafts connecting multiple levels, some leading to dead ends or chambers only partially excavated. Each discovery deepens the enigma, suggesting that the original builders intentionally incorporated complexity and concealment, leaving a network that continues to surprise even the most methodical researchers. Walking through the narrow, dimly lit tunnels, it is impossible not to sense the monumental effort required to carve and inhabit such a hidden city beneath the earth. The silence is punctuated only by the faint echo of footsteps or the occasional drip of water from unseen crevices. The walls, worn smooth by centuries of passage, retain the faint impressions of hands and tools, offering glimpses into the human endeavour behind the construction. Every twist and turn evokes curiosity and unease, as if the labyrinth itself tests the resolve and imagination of anyone daring to explore it. Detailed surveys and excavations continue to reveal portions of the tunnels, but each discovery exposes only more questions about the intentions of the city's creators. Scholars measure distances, document ventilation, and map chamber layouts, yet every attempt to reconstruct the city's full use leaves gaps in understanding. The architecture combines practical habitation with elements that appear ceremonial, defensive, and perhaps symbolic. Yet the reasoning behind each choice is lost to time. For every uncovered corridor, another remains hidden, preserving the city's secrets and defying complete comprehension. Its shadowed passageways wind endlessly, guarding the intentions of a civilization whose knowledge may have been deliberately concealed from those who came after. the megalithic terraces of Gunung Padang.
Yep.
From the base of Gunung Padang, the terraces appear as a monumental stairway carved into the hill, each platform layered with massive stones whose placement defies simple explanation. The slope rises sharply, and as the eye follows the uneven steps, the stones' sheer size and irregularity create a sense of awe that is difficult to quantify. The platforms seem both deliberate and organic, a combination that draws observers into wondering how humans of any ancient age could achieve such a feat. Shadows fall between the megaliths, emphasizing the three-dimensional complexity that stretches across the hillside, hinting at labour and planning now long forgotten. Early surveys recorded the site decades ago, yet its true age and purpose continue to provoke debate among researchers worldwide. Radiocarbon testing of soil samples from the terraces has suggested timelines that challenge conventional archaeology, with some layers potentially dating back several millennia before accepted estimates. The earliest visitors documented the steps and stone arrangements, noting their unusual size and orientation, yet even careful sketches failed to capture the full scale of the terraces. For every fragment of evidence collected, new questions arise, particularly concerning who organised the construction and why such immense effort was dedicated to a hill in West Java. The terraces stretch upward in irregular steps, with stones arranged in ways that suggest both planning and adaptation to the uneven terrain. Certain platforms are nearly level, creating flat expanses that might have supported structures, gatherings, or ritual activities, while others incline sharply, blending seamlessly with natural contours. Stones vary dramatically in size, some weighing multiple tons, yet each seems intentionally placed, forming lines and clusters that hint at a hidden logic. Paths between terraces wind unpredictably, leading to niches and small chambers where smaller rocks have been stacked with care, suggesting meticulous attention to spatial organisation across the hill. Volcanic megaliths, some several tons in weight, are fitted with a precision that hints at methods now lost to time. Marks on their surfaces indicate deliberate shaping and trimming, though no complete tool evidence survives. The stone's interlocking arrangement, combined with occasional gaps filled by smaller rocks, suggests builders understood both weight distribution and stability, creating terraces that have withstood centuries of weathering. Their placement defies the assumption that ancient communities could only manage small-scale stonework, leaving modern engineers questioning the techniques employed without modern machinery. Soil stratigraphy reveals layers beneath the visible terraces, indicating repeated construction or modification over centuries, possibly millennia. Distinct layers contain different compositions of volcanic ash, sand and clay, implying periods of building interspersed with natural sedimentation. Radiocarbon dating of carbonized plant material within these layers has produced varied results, supporting theories of multiple construction phases. Each excavation exposes new patterns, showing that the terraces were not a single project but a continuum of effort that evolved with time. Yet the reasons behind these successive modifications remain elusive. Evidence of stone alignments and elevated platforms hints at ceremonial or ritualistic use, though no definitive record survives. Some stones appear deliberately oriented toward cardinal points or celestial markers, prompting speculation about observances tied to solstices or equinoxes. Other arrangements suggest areas designated for gatherings or processions, with larger stones marking thresholds or focal points. The repetition of patterns across multiple terraces implies intentionality, yet without inscriptions or artifacts directly linking this to human activity, interpretations remain cautious and provisional, allowing the terrace's mystery to persist. Moving and shaping these enormous rocks into terraces required coordination and skill, a feat that challenges modern assumptions about prehistoric engineering. Stones were quarried locally, yet lifting and transporting them up steep slopes would have demanded not only labour but planning and ingenuity. Some megaliths are so heavy that even contemporary lifting equipment would struggle to position them precisely. Observers can trace slight tool marks and impressions that reveal careful trimming and alignment, but no record exists to explain how large groups coordinated such monumental effort without machinery, leaving the construction method an enduring enigma. Recent excavations and geophysical surveys have uncovered hidden foundations and deep terraces, expanding the known extent of the site beyond its visible summit. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed subterranean layers filled with stones that may have served structural or ceremonial purposes. In some cases, what appeared to be natural rock formations were identified as man-made arrangements, suggesting the terraces extend further than surface observations allow. Each discovery deepens the mystery, indicating that the visible terraces are only the uppermost expression of a far more extensive and complex structure yet to be fully explored. Climbing the uneven platforms, the texture of stones beneath one's hands, and the steep incline evoke a palpable sense of human ambition across generations. The physicality of the ascent, the weight of stones, the irregular steps, and the effort required immerses one in the labour of those who shaped the terraces. From higher platforms, the terraces fan outward across the hill, forming patterns that are at once chaotic and meticulously ordered. The scale, combined with the repeated layering, hints at human dedication to a purpose that is now obscured, leaving a lasting impression of skill, patience, and endurance. Careful study of measurements and construction patterns has revealed only fragments of understanding, leaving the terrace's full purpose and timeline unresolved. Scholars continue to debate whether the terraces served ceremonial, defensive, agricultural, or symbolic functions, yet no single explanation accounts for the sheer scale and complexity. Even the patterns of stone placement, alignments, and layered platforms resist definitive interpretation, suggesting knowledge of engineering and planning that may have been lost over time. Each step, each platform, carries evidence of human intention that remains largely unreadable to the modern observer. The terraces rise in silent testament to human ambition, their stones guarding secrets that may outlast any attempt to uncover them. The Hanging Temple of Hengshan. Its halls hover at impossible angles, leaving visitors to wonder how ancient hands could have balanced such massive structures against sheer stone. The eye is drawn upward along narrow terraces and cantilevered beams, where timber and stone merge in delicate equilibrium. Shadows deepen in the recesses between halls, and the wind carries a low whistle that seems to echo the labour of those who placed each beam with precision. Every step along the wooden walkways reinforces the sense that the temple is both monumental and improbable, a feat that challenges understanding even before any historical context is considered. The faint scent of aged timber mixes with the mineral tang of rock, adding a tangible sense of age to the precarious architecture. Records suggest the temple was first constructed during the Northern Wei dynasty, yet details of its original builders and methods remain scarce. Scholars acknowledge references in early texts, but no construction manuals or accounts describe the processes by which the temple was anchored to a cliff that rises nearly vertically above the valley floor. Local traditions speak of master builders and craftsmen, yet their identities and techniques are lost to time. The combination of historical fragments and enduring mystery gives the temple an aura that seems to transcend mere architecture, suggesting both devotion and ingenuity. Multiple halls and terraces extend along the cliff face, connected by narrow walkways and cantilevered wooden beams that appear impossibly secure. Some of the halls jut out over the abyss, supported by intricate frameworks of interlocking timber embedded into rock crevices. Staircases twist along uneven ledges, while small platforms create vantage points to observe distant valleys. From certain angles, the temple appears to float, its proportions so carefully calibrated that it seems impervious to gravity, an optical and engineering illusion achieved centuries before modern tools. Large timbers are embedded directly into the rock, interlocking with stone supports in a method that has allowed the temple to endure for centuries. The beams are angled and reinforced to distribute weight across multiple points, a technique still studied by structural engineers today. Stone brackets carved into the cliff serve as anchor points, while crossbeams create tension and balance that prevent sagging. Evidence of careful maintenance over generations suggests that those who occupied the temple understood not only how to build it, but also how to preserve its precarious stability. Tiny notches and grooves in the wood indicate repeated inspections and adjustments, hints of human vigilance stretching across centuries. Despite exposure to wind, rain, and seismic activity, the structure remains remarkably stable, prompting questions about ancient engineering knowledge. Centuries of storms and occasional earthquakes have tested the temple's endurance, yet the halls remain aligned and secure. Wood has been replaced and stone supports reinforced over time, but the original methods used to lift, fit, and secure the earliest beams remain a mystery. The interplay of natural forces and human skill gives the temple a sense of living tension, as if the cliff itself is both a partner and a challenge to its survival. The site served as a place of worship for Taoist, Buddhist, and Confucian traditions, its precarious position perhaps symbolizing spiritual elevation above the earthly plane. Pilgrims historically ascended narrow pathways to reach meditation halls and altars, embracing both physical risk and symbolic transcendence. The positioning of the halls may have reflected a desire to place human activity in harmony with nature, or to separate spiritual practice from the ordinary world below. Yet the combination of religious purpose and technical daring amplifies the mystery. How practical construction and symbolic meaning were balanced remains unclear. How ancient builders maneuvered massive beams and stones onto such a vertical cliff face continues to puzzle historians and engineers alike. There is little evidence of scaffolding or lifting devices, though some researchers speculate on the use of ropes, pulleys, and temporary wooden platforms. The logistics of transporting timber, shaping it to precise dimensions, and embedding it securely in rock without modern machinery challenge conventional understanding of engineering at the time. Each successful beam placement speaks to a knowledge of physics, balance, and human coordination that is difficult to fully grasp. Modern preservationists carefully reinforce key beams and inspect the cliff's integrity, yet much about the temple's original construction is still indecipherable. Laser scans and structural analyses reveal hidden support networks and the subtle angles that maintain equilibrium. Engineers note that even minor miscalculations could have caused collapse, underscoring the precision of the original builders. Contemporary interventions are cautious, intended to protect the temple without obscuring its historical ingenuity. The combination of vulnerability and enduring stability continues to fascinate all who study it. Walking along the narrow terraces, the gap between temple and chasm beneath evokes both reverence and vertigo, a visceral reminder of human ingenuity. The rough texture of the wooden walkways, the uneven stone steps, and the roar of the valley below combine to create an almost tactile awareness of the risk and precision involved. Each hall offers a different perspective. From one, the cliff seems impossibly sheer; from another, the timber supports seem impossibly light. The sensation reinforces the impression that the hanging temple is more than architecture. It is a deliberate dialogue with gravity, danger, and human skill. Occasionally the wind shifts suddenly, causing the thin platforms to creak underfoot, a subtle reminder of how delicately balanced the entire structure truly is. Each observation of the cliffside halls raises more questions than it answers, leaving the true methods and motivations behind their creation shrouded in uncertainty. Scholars may measure angles, analyze materials, and study construction patterns, but the full understanding of how and why these halls were placed where they are remains elusive. The interplay of technical brilliance, spiritual significance, and natural environment continues to defy complete explanation. Every beam, bracket, and platform offers evidence of intention, yet conceals as much as it reveals. Suspended above the void, the hanging temple endures as a testament to ingenuity and devotion, guarding secrets that no hand, tool, or theory has yet unraveled. The dolmens of the Caucasus. Shrouded in mist, the ancient stones seem to hold secrets that resist every attempt to decipher them. Stepping among them, one is immediately struck by their stillness, a quiet presence that feels both deliberate. The air carries the scent of wet earth and lichen, and a faint echo of wind moving through the rugged terrain emphasizes the isolation of each structure. Shadows deepen in the spaces between slabs, creating gaps that hint at corridors or chambers long forgotten. Each dolmen feels like a marker of a story whose meaning has been lost to centuries, yet which continues to assert itself in the landscape. The uneven surfaces of the stones, covered in moss and pitted by time, invite both caution and curiosity, as if the rocks themselves are silent custodians of memory. Every step produces a subtle creak or scrape, a reminder of the weight pressing downward and the ancient hands that first placed these stones. Early investigations hinted at their ancient origin, yet records of their craters have long vanished into obscurity. Archaeologists first noted these megalithic structures in the 19th century, documenting their rough outlines and remarkable durability, but no inscriptions or artifacts clearly identified those who built them. Carbon dating of surrounding materials suggests a timeline spanning several millennia, Yet discrepancies in soil layers and stone placement complicate efforts to establish a precise chronology. Attempts to trace the cultural or tribal affiliations of their builders have produced little, leaving the dolmen's origins shrouded in conjecture. Some appear in solitary isolation, while others cluster in subtle patterns that suggest deliberate arrangement rather than chance. Lines of stones hint at ceremonial pathways or alignments with celestial events, while other groupings form circles or rectangles, perhaps marking communal or ritual spaces. The repetition of certain construction styles indicates knowledge shared across communities, yet the variation in size and spacing implies localized adaptation. Observers cannot help but notice that the layout of the dolmens seems guided by intent, though no surviving records explain what purpose these alignments may have served. Massive megaliths, perfectly balanced and sometimes exceeding several tons, raise questions about the methods used to erect them. The stones were likely quarried locally, yet the task of moving and positioning them in uneven terrain would have demanded remarkable coordination and ingenuity. Some dolmens show precise levelling and flat surfaces that required careful preparation, while others incorporate irregular slabs that fit snugly together in ways that suggest trial and error or advanced understanding of weight distribution. The sheer physicality of the task hints at a society capable of organising labour on a scale that modern assumptions often underestimate. Researchers have proposed funerary, ceremonial, or astronomical functions, though none fully explain the scale or precision observed. Excavations have revealed human remains in a few dolmens, yet many remain empty, their interiors inaccessible or deteriorated. The positioning of certain stones aligns with solstices and equinoxes, suggesting a calendrical or observational purpose, but these alignments are inconsistent across the region. Each hypothesis explains fragments of evidence but leaves the larger picture unresolved, reinforcing the sense that the dolmens were part of a complex system of meaning lost to time. Transporting and lifting these stones across steep slopes without machinery would have required extraordinary coordination and insight. Experimental archaeology has shown that moving multi-ton slabs over rough terrain demands teamwork, simple mechanical tools, and ingenuity in leveraging natural features like inclines or fulcrums. The precision observed in dolmen placement hints that their builders may have possessed specialized knowledge of balance, leverage, and material strength. Some stones are positioned atop small rises or depressions, suggesting a careful understanding of topography that guided both placement and visual impact. It remains impossible to know how labour was organised or how knowledge was transmitted across generations. The composition of the slabs, combined with weathering patterns, suggests that the builders carefully selected and positioned each stone for durability. Granite, basalt, and limestone are predominant, often arranged so that water runoff and erosion would minimally affect structural integrity. Small fissures or grooves carved into some stones may have served practical or symbolic purposes, though their exact function remains unknown. The endurance of the dolmens through centuries of harsh weather attests to intentional design, yet the rationale behind these choices, beyond survival of the structure, is impossible to confirm. Recent surveys have revealed buried foundations and subtle alignments, yet the reasoning behind these choices remains unclear. Ground-penetrating radar and aerial photography have identified stones beneath soil layers that were once thought natural, revealing a more extensive network than previously recognized. Subtle orientation patterns suggest deliberate placement relative to hills, rivers, or valleys, but the logic of these arrangements defies complete interpretation. Each discovery provides tantalizing glimpses of sophistication, while reinforcing the larger mystery of the builder's intentions and knowledge. Moving among the dolmens, one senses both the weight of stone and the weight of unanswered questions pressing from the past. The sheer scale of the slabs, the precision of their interlocking, and the isolation of the sites create a haunting sense of human purpose stretched across centuries. The landscape itself, rugged, uneven, and frequently mist-covered, enhances the feeling that these structures were meant to impress or communicate in ways we can no longer read. Silence dominates, broken only by wind or the occasional bird, leaving the observer to grapple with both awe and the frustration of incomplete understanding. One cannot help but imagine the hands that carved, moved, and set each stone, their efforts now memorialized only in granite and limestone. Each monument hints at intent and intelligence, yet the meaning behind their existence continues to elude comprehension. The scattered network of dolmens across the Caucasus reflects a civilization capable of extraordinary technical achievement, yet one that left almost no written record. Observing these stones inspires reflection on the ingenuity and priorities of ancient societies, on the kinds of knowledge that could vanish while leaving such indelible marks on the landscape. Every step between dolmens feels like a journey through both history and mystery, a confrontation with human skill that refuses to yield its full story. Weathered by time yet unyielding, the dolmens of the Caucasus endure as enigmatic monuments to human knowledge long vanished from memory. The quarries of Baalbek's southern stone. The echo of ancient labour still seems to resonate through the open quarry, where massive shapes emerge from the rock like half-forgotten ambitions. Shadows fall across partially hewn stones, some tilted at impossible angles, their surfaces scarred with grooves that hint at a long-abandoned effort. The air carries a faint mineral tang, punctuated by the whisper of wind brushing across the jagged cuts, and even the smallest fissures seem to tell stories of human hands and ingenuity now lost. Observers can scarcely fathom the scale of the enterprise, where some of the heaviest blocks ever attempted in antiquity lie in solemn repose, frozen mid-creation as if the earth itself resisted their release. Scholars note that the southern quarries supplied blocks for structures that continue to baffle engineers and historians alike. The massive foundations of the nearby temples required stones of unprecedented size, some exceeding hundreds of tons, yet no surviving record documents the planning or labour necessary for their extraction. Roman and pre-Roman engineering accounts provide hints of tools and ramps, but the precision achieved with such enormity challenges even modern understanding. Archaeological surveys indicate that many stones were only partially cut and left in place, offering clues that the builders may have reconsidered methods or encountered limitations that remain unexplained today. One monolith, famously known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, dwarfs every human observer, its weight estimated at over 1,000 tons. Its surface is partially smoothed, yet portions remain firmly embedded in the bedrock, giving the impression of a colossal work paused indefinitely. Nearby, smaller megaliths lie in varied stages of preparation, forming a landscape that seems both chaotic and deliberately organised. The sheer scale of these stones invites speculation about the manpower, ingenuity and coordination required, while the absence of accompanying records leaves the mind struggling to reconcile the visible evidence with plausible historical methods. Chisel marks, grooves, and unfinished edges suggest a methodical approach, yet no record explains how labourers could manipulate stones of this magnitude. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that even moving moderately sized blocks with simple levers and rollers is a complex feat, let alone stones that surpass modern cranes in weight. The spacing of cuts indicates careful planning, while the angles of extraction hint at techniques lost to time. Every groove appears purposeful, as though the builders anticipated both the stone's release from bedrock and its final destination, yet the process itself remains a profound mystery. Moving such colossal blocks over rough terrain toward the temple foundations would have required ingenuity that still defies practical explanation. Scholars propose the use of sledges, lubricated tracks or rolling logs, but no combination of these methods fully accounts for the stone's weight, precise alignment, or placement within the temple complex. The quarry slopes are steep and uneven, littered with boulders and jagged rock, yet the stones were manoeuvred from their original positions to a foundation hundreds of meters away. The discrepancy between what is possible with known ancient methods and what was actually accomplished continues to challenge engineers today. Several megaliths remain partially cut, abandoned in the quarry, their suspended potential hinting at a plan that was never realized. Some stones are split, yet never freed from the bedrock. Others lie at impossible angles, as if paused mid-extraction. These unfinished monuments are perhaps the most enigmatic, revealing intention and capability while simultaneously illustrating the limits faced by their creators. Their presence raises questions about whether construction was halted due to technical, political, or ceremonial reasons, questions that modern inquiry cannot answer definitively. The precision of each incision and the careful alignment with adjacent blocks imply knowledge of leverage, geometry, and material strength that is extraordinary for the era. The cuts are remarkably straight, often extending tens of meters without deviation, and their surfaces are flat enough to allow near-perfect adjacency with neighbouring stones. Observers today marvel at the thought that this was achieved with hand tools and rudimentary mechanisms, and that each slab could weigh more than 1,000 modern automobiles. The combination of vision, skill, and labour required speaks to a level of expertise that is difficult to reconcile with what is known about regional technology at the time. Modern laser scans and topographical surveys have quantified the immense size and weight of these stones, yet provide no definitive answer for how they were transported. Scientists can measure the angle of cuts, the distance between quarries and temple sites, and even the slight curvature of the terrain, but the method of moving stones across such obstacles remains speculative. The surveys also reveal subtle markings that may have functioned as guides or alignment aids, yet their exact purpose is uncertain. Each measurement deepens our understanding of the stone's enormity, while simultaneously emphasizing the enduring puzzle of human capability and antiquity. Standing beside these blocks, one senses a profound tension between human ambition and the limits of possibility, as if time itself has paused to admire the effort. The rough texture of unfinished surfaces, the scale of the partially freed monoliths, and the silence of the open quarry combine to create an almost palpable sense of awe. The human mind struggles to imagine the coordination, organization, and knowledge required to conceive, extract, and eventually install these blocks. Even the faintest breeze carries a whisper of ancient effort, evoking an era when vision and labour intersected in ways we may never fully comprehend. Every unhewn edge and carefully aligned corner poses questions that have yet to be answered, leaving the quarry both a testament and a puzzle of ancient ingenuity. The unfinished megaliths are reminders that even the most extraordinary human achievements often leave behind more mystery than certainty. Observers are drawn to speculate, yet must reconcile that much of the process remains invisible, hidden in history and technique that vanished along with the builders. In this place, ambition and enigma coexist in stone, waiting silently for the next generation of scholars to wonder, measure, and marvel. Even after centuries of scrutiny, the Baalbek quarries continue to defy understanding, their colossal stones standing as monuments to human skill that may never be fully explained. The Nabatean tomb facades of Madurin Saleh. Intricate carvings emerge from the sandstone cliffs, their precision hinting at knowledge and intent that have long vanished. Each facade seems to rise effortlessly from the rock, yet close observation reveals meticulous planning, as if the builders had measured every line and relief before a single chisel struck the stone. The desert sun casts sharp shadows across recessed niches and ornamental columns, emphasizing depth and subtlety. Sand drifts along the base, partially obscuring stairways and lower carvings, while wind scratches at exposed surfaces, revealing centuries of patient erosion. Despite this, the artistry remains remarkably intact, and the monuments continue to communicate a silent authority across the ages. Researchers note that Madurin Saleh served as a key settlement along Nabatean trade routes, yet few written records survive to explain these monumental works. Known to the Romans as Hegra, the city became a hub of commerce and culture, connecting the Arabian interior to Mediterranean markets. Inscriptions in the Nabatean script appear on select tombs, but they offer only limited clues, often recording names or genealogies rather than instructions for construction or purpose. Archaeological surveys have documented hundreds of tombs, yet much about their selection, spacing, and decorative program remains mysterious. Each discovery deepens the intrigue rather than resolving it. Every line and edge of the facades exhibits a geometric exactness that defies casual observation, as if each detail were measured against an unseen standard. Columns, pediments, and cornices fit into precise proportions, while carved niches and reliefs display remarkable symmetry. Even small decorative elements, like rosettes and scrolls, align with careful consistency, suggesting advanced spatial understanding. The interplay between structural form and ornamental embellishment implies intentionality, yet the reasoning behind specific designs is largely speculative. For modern eyes, the result is both awe-inspiring and puzzling, a perfect balance of artistry and engineering that raises questions about the tools and techniques available at the time. Symbols and decorative motifs punctuate the tombs, offering glimpses into beliefs, rituals, or societal hierarchies that modern eyes can only speculate upon. Winged figures, floral patterns, and geometric tracery hint at ceremonial or spiritual significance, yet the exact meaning is lost to time. Some facades incorporate abstract forms whose function remains debated, possibly serving as markers of status or territorial claims. The sheer variety across tombs indicates that the builders were not simply replicating a standard formula, but were creating individualized statements within a broader cultural framework. This personalization, combined with architectural sophistication, challenges assumptions about the artistic capabilities of desert societies in antiquity. Crafting these facades into near-vertical cliffs would have demanded ingenious scaffolding, steady hands, and an intimate understanding of stone behavior. The Nabateans likely carved from top to bottom, removing rock in carefully planned layers to prevent collapse or fracturing. Evidence of tool marks suggests the use of iron chisels and hammers, yet the uniformity of surfaces in some areas hints at refinement techniques that remain partly unexplained. Achieving consistency across multiple facades on uneven cliff faces requires both skill and foresight, implying that builders possessed not only practical experience, but also conceptual knowledge of proportion and design. The surfaces endure with remarkable clarity, despite centuries of wind, sand, and temperature extremes, suggesting both material choice and meticulous execution. The sandstone, though relatively soft, was carefully selected for its durability and workability. The orientation of facades, often sheltered within alcoves or shadowed cliffs, minimizes direct exposure, preserving intricate reliefs. Even small cracks appear calculated or reinforced, whether intentionally or as a byproduct of skilled cutting. This combination of geological selection and applied technique results in monuments that remain legible, their carvings defying both erosion and the passage of time. Clusters of tombs stretch across the cliffs, forming arrangements whose logic remains partially deciphered and whose purpose continues to provoke debate. Some tombs appear in linear sequences along ledges, while others occupy isolated prominences, their positions emphasizing prominence or accessibility. Sightlines between monuments hint at possible symbolic or functional alignments, perhaps connecting structures to the desert horizon, trade paths, or celestial events. Yet no pattern explains every placement, leaving archaeologists to piece together hypotheses from fragmentary evidence. The spatial relationships amplify the sense of deliberate design, deepening the mystery rather than resolving it. Advanced photogrammetry and laser surveys have captured their measurements with unprecedented accuracy, yet the techniques of the original builders remain elusive. Detailed scans reveal micro-level precision in column placement, pediment angles, and niche depth, providing data far beyond what early explorers could achieve. Even so, these tools illuminate questions more than answers. How did the Nabateans maintain consistency across facades? What scaffolding or measurement systems enabled such exact execution on near-vertical surfaces? Each modern observation reinforces the enigma, revealing the limits of contemporary understanding when faced with ancient ingenuity. Walking beneath the carved surfaces, one is struck by both scale and subtlety, the way light and shadow animate figures frozen in stone. The facades interact with the shifting sun, transforming throughout the day from austere silhouettes to intricate tapestries of relief. The desert wind carries echoes of centuries past, and the heat casts long, trembling shadows that shift like ghosts across the carvings. There is a profound sense of human effort captured in each line, each groove, and each sculpted detail. One cannot help but feel a connection to builders whose vision and labour transcend time, leaving an impression that lingers as silently as it is profound. Each facade challenges assumptions about ancient capabilities, leaving observers to ponder both the artistry and the unanswered questions of its creation. The monuments reflect not only technical expertise, but also cultural sophistication, suggesting a society that valued legacy, status, and perhaps the communication of identity across generations. Their continued preservation invites study, yet simultaneously resists full comprehension. Every survey, photograph, and measurement opens new avenues of inquiry, while leaving fundamental mysteries intact. Why these designs, why this placement, and how they achieved such perfection with the tools and knowledge available at the time. Though time has eroded much of the surrounding landscape, the Nabatean facades endure as silent testimonies to a mastery that continues to elude understanding. The mysterious platform of Tiahuanaco. Flat terraces stretch outward, their geometric regularity suggesting a purpose beyond mere foundational gathering space. Each level rises like a deliberately composed stage, its edges aligned with remarkable precision despite uneven terrain. The Andes loom beyond, their peaks catching sunlight that sweeps across the massive stones and casts angular shadows into shallow recesses. Wind scours the surface, whispering across carved grooves and tiny fissures, while the dry air carries a faint grit that scratches against exposed surfaces. Every corner, every joint appears intentional, as though some unseen hand guided both measurement and placement. Standing atop the platform, it is impossible not to notice the scale of human labour and the silent intelligence etched into the stonework, waiting to be deciphered. Tiahuanaco was a centre of trade and ritual, yet the culture's written record is nearly non-existent, leaving physical structures as the primary testimony of its sophistication. Radiocarbon dating and stratigraphic studies suggest construction phases stretching across centuries, though the exact timeline remains uncertain. The city's location near Lake Titicaca, at a high altitude, implies deliberate placement, possibly for both strategic and ceremonial reasons. The surrounding plains show evidence of ancient agriculture and water management, hinting that the platform was not isolated in purpose. Researchers have catalogued numerous megalithic structures nearby, but this platform stands apart for its sheer size, terraces, and the seeming mathematical harmony of its layout, commanding attention across the landscape. Stones interlock with an exactness that challenges conventional explanations, their surfaces meticulously shaped and fitted with minimal gaps. Blocks weighing several tons are arranged with angular precision, some showing cuts so straight they could almost rival modern masonry. Terraces rise in successive layers, creating a visual rhythm that blends functionality with aesthetic sophistication. Surveyors have noted that the weight distribution across terraces and platforms would require careful calculation, yet no contemporary record explains how such consistency was achieved. Tool marks on some stones reveal evidence of hammering and smoothing techniques, while other surfaces remain unnervingly precise, as if polished with a knowledge lost to time. Observations reveal alignments with solar events and horizon markers, patterns that hint at astronomical knowledge encoded in stone. Certain corners correspond with solstice, sunrise and sunset, while others track the movement of the moon or select constellations. Nearby peaks and natural ridges appear incorporated into these sightlines, suggesting that the builders carefully considered their environment when planning orientation. These alignments suggest more than mere coincidence. They imply that the builders possessed an understanding of celestial cycles and possibly their integration into ritual, calendar, or agricultural systems. Yet scholars continue to debate whether the platform functioned primarily as an observatory, ceremonial centre, or a combination of purposes, leaving its ultimate intent unresolved. Lifting and placing megaliths across uneven terrain would have required both coordination and techniques that remain the subject of debate among engineers. The largest stones weigh several tons, yet they were transported across distances and positioned with remarkable accuracy. Experimental reconstructions demonstrate that even with ramps, levers and human labour, moving such massive stones would demand immense planning, ingenuity and cooperation. Despite these hypotheses, no method fully accounts for the level of precision evident in every terrace and joint, reinforcing the platform's enigmatic nature. Some stones also appear selected for subtle variations in colour or texture, adding a layer of deliberate design. Evidence of successive terraces and stone layers suggests construction occurred in phases, each demanding planning and foresight. Archaeological surveys reveal subtle differences in stone cutting and alignment between levels, implying that the structure evolved. Lower terraces often employ coarser stonework, while upper layers show more precise carving and interlocking. These differences hint at either improvements in technique or changes in purpose across generations. The platform's evolution, carefully layered yet still cohesive, presents a puzzle. How knowledge was maintained or adapted without written instruction remains unknown, intensifying the mystery. Modern geophysical surveys and radiocarbon analyses illuminate aspects of the platform's construction, yet leave the rationale for its design unresolved. LiDAR scans and ground-penetrating radar reveal substructures beneath the terraces, including possible foundations, cavities or drainage channels. Soil samples indicate extensive human modification of the natural landscape, while microtopography suggests that levelling and stabilisation were executed with careful planning. Even with advanced mapping, researchers can measure every stone and slope, but these technologies cannot explain why the platform was designed in this precise manner, leaving the larger picture of its purpose frustratingly out of reach. Scholars continue to debate whether the platform served ceremonial, astronomical, or social functions, yet no consensus has emerged. Some suggest it operated as a calendar marking important agricultural or ritual dates. Others propose it was a centre for elite gatherings, a symbol of authority, or a complex combination of all these functions. Patterns of stone alignment, terrace orientation, and spatial distribution support multiple hypotheses, each compelling yet incomplete. Comparisons with other Andean sites, such as Pucara or Tiwanaku's Akarpana Mound, highlight similarities but also underscore the platform's uniqueness, amplifying the questions that remain. Standing amid the terraces, one senses the magnitude of human effort and the careful orchestration of stone, light, and horizon. Sunlight shifts gradually across surfaces, revealing textures, engraved lines, and subtle chamfers invisible at first glance. Shadows define niches and edges, while wind passes through terraces with a faint whisper that evokes the presence of countless hands shaping the stones. The scale and detail combine to create a profound experience. The platform is simultaneously monumental and intimate, drawing attention to both the grandeur of collective human effort and the subtleties of individual craftsmanship. Every terrace and precisely cut stone provokes questions that linger long after observation, hinting at knowledge lost to time. The platform's scale, astronomical alignment, and layered construction testify to a society capable of extraordinary planning, engineering, and artistic execution. Yet despite modern study, each visit reinforces the enigma. How the builders achieved such precision, how they coordinated labour, and what broader meaning the platform conveyed. The structure's silent presence continues to challenge assumptions about the technical and conceptual sophistication of the Andean civilization, compelling continued study and wonder. The terraces of Tiahuanaco rise in quiet defiance of explanation, their precise stones preserving enigmas that stretch far beyond the reach of modern understanding.